Right.
I'm sure they think I'm a loon.
All right,
Lord.
if you all join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Almost forgot that.
Right.
Good morning, everyone. We'll call the May 2nd, 2023 Meeker County Board meeting to order. And we'll open with the public comment period. Do we have anybody from the public that wants to comment? Look like it. So move on. Next item is our board meeting agenda. We do have a couple additions to that. Andrew, do you want to?
Yes, we have two additions, both of which we'll put under item 6, which is my item. One is approval of a resolution appointing the county assessor, and the second is discussion regarding the sentencing to service contract renewal.
All right, with those additions,
Mr. Chair, I would move acceptance of the amended agenda.
I have a motion by Commissioner Johnson
I'll second that.
and a second by Commissioner Bredesen. Is there any further discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, consent agenda. Andrew, would you walk us through those items, please?
Absolutely. On today's consent agenda, we have approval of the April 18th board meeting minutes, approval of the social services, county, and hospital accounts payable, reappointment of Lorraine Schmeling and Kimberly Ertl to the park board for 3-year terms, approval of on sale, including Sunday and off sale intoxicating liquor license for Shaggy's Bonfire, approval of the Minnesota off-highway vehicle grant contract agreement, and approval for advertising for a temporary file clerk. That is the consent agenda.
All right, any questions on the consent agenda?
I want to mention the reappointments to the park board. Historically, we have done that. It doesn't always have to, because we have people.
Correct, yes, so the question that has come up here is that Kimberly Ertl is representing Commissioner District 2, however, she doesn't live in Commissioner District 2, she lives in Commissioner District 5. However, based on where her physical location is compared to others who are on the park board, we have good geographic representation in proximity to all of our parks.
I think we did it, District 2 was up and we appointed somebody from
Yep.
1 or the wards, so because they've had a good park board, they like to keep it together. I just had one question on the liquor license for Shaggy's. Can you tell me the procedure? Those people do a background check, or we issue, or what is the issuance? I meant to get back to you and I didn't.
Correct. So they were approved back in 2021 and however did not get occupancy because of the fact that it had some septic
Right.
issues in others. And so they've actually gone through the background check and the attorney signed off
Okay.
both this time and last time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, the only question I would have, or comment more on Kim Ertl too, is I think they run the tavern there in Forest City and the park is just across the street. So they spend a lot of time in the area of the park there, so I think we do have good representation there as well.
I think it's been a wonderful board over the years, so we've kind of left it. They've worked well together, so we.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. Good way to say
Yeah,
it.
they do a very nice job.
Help to get people to represent each district. I know in some other committees, we'd rather have someone who's willing to serve and participate than necessarily a geographic residential. So,
Oh, and she works in the district.
Mr. Chair, I had one other question. I apologize. The temporary file clerk, we did that once before, I think, for scanning. Is that it?
Yes, that was in the social services department, yep.
And do we still use someone over there? Are we done with that person?
We don't have the temporary anymore.
I feel like we got them from workforce, or I don't remember.
I think it was a green thumb.
Okay, it seems like we got part of their wages reimbursed or something.
Yeah, we're gonna explore some different options
Okay.
with this one.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions on the consent agenda? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I so move that we accept the consent agenda.
All right, got a motion, Commissioner Bredesen.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item. Karen White, Treatment Court Coordinator.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Karen.
It has been a long time since I've seen people. And I just thought I should come and do what I normally do. As you can see, I brought some folks with me today, and I'll get to them in just a minute. But I wanted to just kind of spend a few minutes kind of going through a little bit of background and where we're at, and you know what's happened over the last couple of years with us. You know, now that that nasty thing of a pandemic is behind us, and we're moving forward. So, okay, I need to figure out how to run this.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yes,
My little presentation. Sorry.
I
There
can
we
do this
go.
if you want.
I just wanted to kind of give just a gentle reminder of kind of overall at a national level, what about treatment courts, at a state level about treatment courts, and then at our local level. Treatment courts have been around now since 1989, so 30-some years. They are the most well-researched criminal justice rehabilitation program that's out there. And so we, treatment courts in general, have done a lot of research on this, again, more so than a lot of other programs that are out there. You know, we are the last, NDCI is the National Drug Court Institute, and the last time that they did their cost effectiveness, it was, you know, a $27 for every dollar invested, return on their investment. And even in 2012, which is when Minnesota did their initial drug court evaluation, there was over $3,000 less spent on incarcerating drug court participants versus the comparison group. So again, just wanted to remind people, this is a very well-researched program and has been very successful nationwide. Sorry, I'm just gonna look over here, Andrew. Is there,
You can also just push the space bar.
Okay.
Or you can push one of the mouse buttons on there too.
I'm gonna try that.
Okay.
Okay. So, as I noted, in 2012, Minnesota did a drug court evaluation, and then they did a follow-up in 2015. And obviously, you know, those dates are getting dated, but as I'll talk about later, doing a cost-benefit analysis and recidivism studies are very expensive, and so at a state level, I am happy to say that we, at a state level, just received a BJA grant back in 2021 and have just hired a researcher, so she is planning on doing some additional updates to this. Obviously, that's a couple years out because they just hired her here. She just started this spring of 2023 here, so. But you can see that there again, at entry, there's just significant increases in employment, getting their high school diplomas, you know, valid driver's license, child support, just across the board. You know, it's more than just paying their fines. It's just really giving back to the community. You know, when people are employed, they're paying taxes. When people get high school diplomas, they can get better employment usually. So, you know, just all those overall things other than just looking at the court process, but how these individuals fit within the community as a whole. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. So I just want to give you a little bit about the money. In 2017 was the first of 2 BJA grants that were awarded to the 8th Judicial District Treatment Court. In 2017, we received over $250,000. So the reason for those 2 grants was partly to evaluate the intake process of our program. Back in 2017, there was a feeling that we weren't capturing everybody. Like if we're gonna be here, we wanna serve as many people as we can. And so we hired an evaluator from the University of Minnesota Morris to evaluate the intake process. So the recommendations from that evaluation were to implement more of an opt-out program and develop this systematic referral process. And we have made significant changes in our referral process since that that evaluation came out. Actually, at this time, what I am doing is I review every new felony filing that comes in, and then I refer it to Brandy for further review, so that we make sure we're seeing everybody and looking at everybody. We're developing, the state has now is semi-annually doing standardized trainings for all new team members. Again, we need to our team members need to be updated on what's best practices so that we can all work cohesively. Create a second coordinator position, which I'll talk about. Interviews with participants. We just recently did a survey with our participants. I like to do that every other year just to see what we're doing, what they like. You know, they are really the people we serve. So we want a program that works for them. Creating a public informational material. Kandawai County just had their Health and Human Services and their probation department just had a kind of a little fair for their vendor fair, what they called it, for just local justice partners. And so I was able to have a booth there. So I felt like that was really good educational piece for the community and for other justice partners that I don't maybe work with on a full-time basis. And obviously, we're always looking at the challenges that rural Minnesota faces, and I'm sure the board is well aware of that level of difficulties across the board in all areas of their life. And then the other part of that money was spent to hire a full-time agent dedicated to the northern assignment area. Then in 2021, I wrote a second grant, and we were awarded, as you can see, almost $500,000. And the process for that, or the purpose for that, was to hire that second coordinator for the northern assignment area, and then to continue the central assignment area, which is Meeker and Candy, has had a full-time probation officer dedicated to this drug court for 7 years now. And so to continue that position and continue funding that position. And we were able to do that. And hiring that second coordinator for the northern assignment area, we were also able to do that, which then freed my time to be here in Candy and Meeker full-time. And then I also cover Chippewa County, they have a small drug court over there, so I do that. I think that that's really a step in the right direction, so that I can spend more time dedicated to Candy and Meeker. So, oops, I will get this. Just a little bit, talking more about that referral process. We get. That is not mine.
That was weird.
So the referral process, we just really take referrals. I might have did that.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I got it.
Got it?
Keep it.
Okay. We take referrals from all sorts of individuals, any justice partner. Again, just trying to capture everybody we can, because we want to, make sure that we're serving the most population we can. All right, and then of course, we always look, the county attorney always has the final say, for public safety issues. That's this part of the process. And then if they approve, we have a screening process that we use. And then everybody that comes into our program has to be diagnosed with a chemical use, now they call it comprehensive use assessment of moderate or severe. Because again, just as a reminder, we want to take your worst of your worst individuals. There are resources out there for individuals that aren't chemically dependent, that are committing their crime for other reasons. So we have been in effects. We've been operational since July 1st of 2014. District-wide, we've had 65 graduates graduate the program, and 70% of them have not committed new criminal activity, gross misdemeanor. Do we have people that get speeding tickets? Do we have people that get fishing without a fishing license? Yes. Are people perfect? No. But again, this is the reality of what we deal with. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've gotten a speeding ticket. So some of that just is just human overall population. 63% have had no known relapses, and that equivalents equates, all of our individuals have to do a volunteer project of at least 50 hours. So equivalent of $35,000 worth of benefit back to the community. And we've had 5 active CHIPS cases closed successfully. Okay, me and this computer are
Don't
not.
click in the center, click on the left,
Okay.
like it's a mouse.
Left. Okay, I was clicking on the right. Okay, thank you. Specifically to Candy and Meeker County, we've had 33 graduates since 2016, and 60% of them have not been convicted of a new crime, and 68 have no known relapses, which equivalates to 20,000. Just a little bit about the data. I know there's been some discussion about a recidivism study and data, and so data is important, and so I did some research on the recidivism study issue. We're really supposed to have these evaluations done by a third party, which can be very expensive. And so that being said, even later this afternoon now, I am gonna work with the University of Minnesota Morris. They may be able to come up with a small amount of funds for me, and they have a professor that might be able to just volunteer his time to help really have an unbiased opinion about our recidivism study. I can give you these numbers, they're raw data, but best practices says that this data should be evaluated by somebody other than myself. I'm not a mathematician, I'm not a statistician, but again, I try to be as transparent as I can, so this is where we're at this time. Okay, so first I'd like to introduce you to Joy. Joy will be graduating on May 3rd of this year, so tomorrow. Tomorrow, yes. So she's been with us just over 3 years. You can see that as she entered, she had 14 prior convictions. Did you know that? No. Did you count? Her chemical use began at 13. She was unemployed, and your mother had custody of your child, or your child was living with your mother. That was my understanding, correct?
She was with the system for like a day, and then she went to my mom and then her dad.
So, at graduation now, she's living at home. You have 2 jobs, and she's really been just a tremendous focus back on her daughter. I mean, we're very proud of just how far you've come and the focus you're putting on your child. I know that's important to you. So I'd like her just to speak a little bit and say a few words. She speaks at Wings, so I know that she can do this.
But this is a whole different group.
She said she felt like she was in court earlier. So this is like a different court system. So.
We're friendly.
We're
And
friendly.
this is also her first commissioners meeting,
Alright.
county meeting, so.
So if my face turns red, that happens. I don't know what I'm supposed to talk about.
Just tell them a little bit about your story and where you come in drug court.
Okay.
She was talking off the storm out there. I want you to know.
Before drug court, I was unmanageable. I used drugs. I was reckless. I could have been very dangerous at different moments and times in my life. I grew up at a very young age. Honestly, I don't know how I did that. I graduated high school, but yet I was still using drugs, raising my siblings, working a full-time job. So like I was telling Karen, I was a functional addict. I went through a lot with my mom. My mom got around, she did drugs, so I didn't really have a parent growing up, so I didn't have that model. I ended up, first it started off with, so to say, minor drugs, like pills, weed, alcohol, and then when I turned about 19, 20, that's when I started getting into the harder drugs, like coke, meth, heroin, glass, stuff like that. I didn't really use much of it, I sold much of it. I had my daughter at like 19, 20, and I was not a good mom. Like, I was physically there, my daughter had everything she needed, a roof over her head, food, clothes, but mentally she did not have a mother. I dealt with a lot of guilt and shame because I was repeating the steps of my mom. I might cry. I came up here to try and start fresh, start a new life. And I did good for a while. I had my own apartment, I had a job, I had a vehicle. I did not have a license. I did not have insurance. So I had a few traffic violations, obviously, for that. And then relationships with my kid's father was not the greatest. And instead of dealing with feelings and emotions the proper way, which I was never taught or learned, I reverted back to drugs. And I ended up going off the deep end. I ended up homeless, I ended up with CPS involved, because I would get so strung out, either I wouldn't get up in time to get my daughter up for school, or I wouldn't be at home in time to get her off the van. So CPS ended up being involved for that, and I was in a drug task force raid in 2019, which I ended up having to fork over custody of my daughter willingly so that she didn't end up in the system. And I was fine with that because I didn't want her to go through the system. I went through the system as myself, and I didn't want that for her. That was the hardest thing I ever had to do. And it was more of a click then. It was the hardest month of my life. I went to treatment up in St. Cloud, and I was supposed to have a visitation with her that day. They told me I couldn't see my kid, and I was gonna walk out. And I don't know what it was, but I got to the door and it told me to turn around. So I did, and I stuck it out. I did, it was about 2 years almost treatment, inpatient and outpatient. Inpatient was the hardest because I would only be able to see my daughter on set days when the court felt, or the social services felt that it was necessary. I had to do a bunch of evaluations. I had to complete certain tasks of treatment. And then my kid's dad said that he couldn't handle my daughter or couldn't provide care for my daughter with his job and being able to be there for her, and they gave me the option of having her back because I had so much clean time. I had to sign up for parenting classes, which I graduated from all the parenting classes. I have certificates for, and they grant me the ability to have her with me at treatment. She stayed with me the whole process of treatment. I went to outpatient treatment, and that's where I met May. And like I was still understanding my daughter's disability. She's autistic nonverbal, or she was diagnosed that at first. And she picked us up because Journey Home closed down. She picked us up, and Kylie didn't know what was going on because she got used to that routine of how we did things. And she just freaked out. She didn't know this lady, so I understood that. She's just freaking out. And May sat there, she's like, good luck staying sober. And I broke down. And she's helped me with everything because she has kids with disabilities. And she's like, it's not easy. You need support. And they taught me patience. They taught me coping skills, techniques, and how to deal with, a child with disabilities. And now she's thriving. I got her in speech therapy. I got her in OT therapy. We go every week. She does date classes in school. She does social skills in school. And I myself am in therapy just to clear my head of things because, like she said, I work 2 jobs. I'm pretty much a single parent. Like her dad's there, but it's mainly on me. I go to all her appointments. I go to all her doctor's appointments. I do all her school stuff. So I kind of need therapy just to not lose myself. compared to when I first entered the program to now, I'm proud of myself. I honestly doubted myself for a long time, but I look on my life from when I was a kid and to what I want for my daughter, you know, and the way I look at it is my daughter didn't ask to be born. She didn't ask to be brought in this world. I brought her into this world. It's my responsibility to take care of her and provide for her. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm not no perfect parent. I'm not a perfect individual. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to go about a healthy lifestyle than what I was brought into and taught. And I still need work. I'm not gonna lie. There's areas where I can advance myself, which I'm working on, and there's areas where still needs work. Like, my mouth is one of them.
We will all agree with that. She's a little sassy.
I
yeah,
am.
but-
There might be a few up here that.
Yeah, some people really struggle with it. So, you're in good company. No specifics.
But
Mine.
there's stuff I need to work on, and I'm not gonna deny that. It took me a long time to come to accepting that I have flaws, because when you're an addict, you don't think there's nothing wrong with you. And I was one of those people. I thought, oh, it's the world's problem, it's this person's problem. I blamed it on everything else except myself. And I came to realization that it is my problem. It is me, because no one forced me to do something, no one forced me to think these thoughts, no one forced me to do anything. I chose to. My life now is amazing compared to what it was. I have all my fines paid off, I have a permit so I can legally drive as a licensed driver now, I have my own car insurance, I have a house that I rent, looking to buy a different house, but we'll get there eventually. My relationships with, well, I don't have much friends, but like with my bosses, it's awesome. They understand where I'm coming from. They respect that, you know, every Tuesday night I need to go to an NA meeting. So they give me Tuesday nights off. I speak at Wings here and there when they have available openings. Just last week I was at the gym and there was a lady with a bunch of kids up there, and we talked about speaking or lining up a date to speak there. Employment's going awesome. Like she said, I'm working 2 jobs. I actually thought about going back to school to finish my main in nursing. I just haven't fully figured out how I'm gonna go about that. I could just jump right into it, but then that's gonna end up biting me in the butt down the road, rather than fully planning it out, which I plan to do, so then everything just goes smoothly. My future goals, well, hopefully I pass my driver's test today and I get my license.
Today, everybody.
I know, so hopefully we get that.
And
Still
you've
nervous.
never had a driver's license
Yes,
before.
I've
So,
never had a license or
Your
permit
first one.
in my whole life, so this will be a big
We're super excited for her.
big milestone to accomplish. Other than that, hopefully I can get back in school, get my degree for that, keep continuing with my daughter's progression. The only thing that I least liked about this program is the time changing of the UAs. I don't mind UAing, it's just, we need to have a set time, rather than changing all these times.
We like to keep them guessing. Obviously, we have a very random UA schedule, so, and that's purposeful, so.
Yes, it's just, it sucks when it collides or interferes with your job. It's like, okay, I need to be to work at 8 o'clock and you want me to come in at 8 o'clock. Other than that, this program has helped me out a lot. It's helped me stay, accountable for my actions. It's helped me, stick to my goals rather than having that fight or flight mode. There was a stipulation of a UA where it came up positive for a drug they understood where I came from, because I told them, I was like, I'll pay out of pocket to do a blood test, hair follicle test, because my daughter is everything like Karen said. I will go to that extent, and that's what this program has taught me. Like, if you mean something, then show us. And I would. Every time they called, you need to come in, I was here. And it's a good program. It really is, especially if you want to change your life, you want to break the cycle that you've been living in. So I would definitely recommend it to people that want to change. I don't know what else to say. I'm nervous.
John.
I appreciate everything you said. I do have one comment though. She said it works on her fight or flight. She's a little feisty too.
Yeah.
She is a little feisty. But you know what? This is the joy of
Yeah.
using this program is we don't want to change their personality. We just want them to live in a lifestyle of recovery with their current personality. And I think Joy's a speaking, walking role model of that, because she's a little feisty, she does have a little mouth on her yet, but she's sober and she's a NORP, which is our kind of normal, ordinary, responsible person. So, her graduation will be held on, tomorrow, up one more level. Court starts at 3, and then we'll hold a little reception for her afterwards, so we'd like to invite you all, so.
If you want to come.
Congratulations.
Yes, well done.
Well, and I have to comment, you started out like you didn't have anything to say or didn't know what to say. I thought you did an excellent job. I mean,
I
yeah.
know, I was there, so my hands are like, this is funny.
You know, I thought, I've not usually brought somebody with before, but it's always great, I think, to really, when we can talk about statistics and we can talk about anecdotal information, but to put a human face with this program and the lives we are touching, I think just says more. So yes, Joy was kind of my guinea pig to this new process we
Yeah, I
started.
should have put it first.
Thank you.
But we're not-
Congratulations, thank you.
Yeah.
We're not quite done, because we're having such back-to-back graduations, I thought we'd do a 2-for-1 today. So I'd like to, Alex, Alex will be graduating the end of this month here in Meeker, same process, 3:00 court, following afterwards. Alex began the program in April of 21, incarcerated, he has had an unstable employment history, 21 convictions, so, not when we're going for records here. You've been in treatment several times, and you began using in high school, and at your use, I was noting in your pre-sentence investigation that at one point you were using heroin daily.
Yep.
So, but now, Alex is living on his own, he's been at the same employment for going on almost 2 years now, and received several promotions, and at the time of his graduation, we'll have 800 days of sobriety. So, Alex, want to tell a little bit about your story and drug court, and then.
Sure, okay, same situation. I grew up kind of in a split household, but it was never horrible for me. As soon as I was 18, I moved out, obviously to get away from, being confronted from anything. Used your basic marijuana and drinking basically till I was 21. Once I turned 21, the alcohol kind of left the scene, and I was in a really bad neighborhood, and pills came in. As soon as the pills came in, you got introduced to heroin. As quickly as I could see it was in my neighborhood and in my house, I was already addicted to it. So from 21 to anytime I'd get arrested, which would be like every 3 years, I'd go to jail. They'd be like, "Oh, we want you to go to treatment." No, why would I do that? I can just sit in jail and get out in 4 months and go back to how I was. Or start over because I'd lose my housing, I'd lose everything. And I'd just do my time. Go in, go out, get in, go out. And, the first time I went to treatment, I was in custody. 82 pounds. The nurse there was like, I don't know how you're alive. We need you to do something with your life. And I was looking at like 8 years in prison for having a bunch of stuff. And that's the first time I was like, hey, maybe I need to do something. I'm probably gonna die. And then went through my first round of treatment and got out, got a job, lived in a sober house, went to a halfway house or whatever, I lived in a sober house, saved up, bought my place out here, and then as soon as I was out of everything, and I just quit my job. And as soon as I quit my job, I just found myself back in the same situation, found myself in the back, same part of the group, the bad crowd, and then I was in and out of jail like 6 times here. I would come in and post my bail and then go back out behind the color wheel and just try to work the color wheel over, and then
This is Alex's very first time ever speaking.
Yeah, I don't
so.
really tell my stories.
And he was just telling me out in the hall, he's like, I need to get bullet points written down.
Yeah. I think I had.
At some point you entered the program, right?
Well, yeah, I had like 4 or 2 months to do left of what I've sat in between all those times of coming out, and then somehow a referral to drug court came in, and the first thing was like, why would I do that? I gave it back to them. I'm like, I'm just gonna sit in here till May 24th or whatever it was, and I'm free. You know, I can go back to doing what I do and see my PO once a month. I know how to plan this out. And then some guy in jail was like, dude, nobody gets offered that. Like, you should check that application back out. So I'm banging on the door like, wait, I want the application. Wait, let me check it out actually. I'm starting to think about it. And so I filled that application out and they're like, it might be too late for you already. And I was like, well, we'll see, I guess. And then I had already gone through treatment because I was just trying to do their steps, go through treatment, get out and go back home. And in the process of that, I own my own place out here on 22. The park had sold to somebody else. And in that window of selling, I've been in jail, in treatment, on the run, all in the same window, so I was avoiding them, wasn't paying rent. They didn't even know who I was. And by the time I got out of inpatient to this last time, and I was like, they're like, you need to stay in Meeker County because you're on our program. And I was like, well, I don't want to go back home. I want to, get away from the area. And I phoned up the people that own the park, and I was like, look, is there anything I can do to prove to you that you guys can give me a chance to catch up on whatever I owe you, get my place back, get what I have back. I've lost it all so many times. Like, I actually want to try this time and stay in one place and try. Drug court saved me on that. Drug court was the only reason why they were like, yeah, we'll consider you. Looks like you have a lot to show up for, show people that you proved them wrong. Just add us on that list. Ever since then, we're on really good terms with them, and I'm still living in the same house. I think I had my license, but I didn't have to make sure I was wearing a mask to hide my identity when I was driving around because I had warrants. Medication assisted treatment. I've been through it a few times. I've been on the methadone program. Worked great for me until I started mixing other pills with the methadone, and that became very dangerous. And then now I'm on this Suboxone program, and I find that if I'm on something good prescription, good, and my night, even my simple like depression drugs and my nighttime sleep aid drugs, if I take them, take everything, I stay on the straight and narrow track. But the minute I stop seeing my doctors, the minute I start forgetting that, then I'm like, whoa, well, I'm taking it anyways, off and going. So that's why the drug court helped me stay in that window that treatment provided. Treatment provided me to get on all the medications I needed to be back on. But once I leave, I would always just run out. When I ran out, that was it. I didn't set up my following appointments. I didn't set up anything else. That's why I was like, drug court's something's there behind me going, hey, look, you need to do this for us too, or, you know. So,
Research has shown people need that long-term.
longest time sobriety, right now, willingly. If that makes any sense.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
It's changed in that process, in this time period, like, I can do it, I know how to stay sober, I know how to do what they want me to do, done it before. But in between that process, it just switched over to where it was like, well, this is way better, like, this is way easier. Find a job that you like, and they make you find a job, you have to find a job. So, they're gonna make you look, and once you find that job that you like, and then my employer knows everything. I laid it all out on the table for him when I was getting hired. I was like, look, I gotta attend to this, and my landlord. Everybody's on my back right now. Just give me a chance. And they were like, well, that's perfect. We like that. I've been there since and climbed all the way up to, I guess, the highest I can be in my area at work. So
Well done.
Congratulations.
I don't know where to end with it.
That's good.
It's still going.
That's good.
Yeah,
Very
you
good.
don't want it to end. You're on a good
Yeah.
track.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to be able to have your things in place rather than trying to get them over again. I found out that that's what I was seeking too, would be like, oh, I don't care. I know how to do it. I lost it all. I lost my cat, my house, all my cars, my girlfriend, who knows where she went, everything over and over and over again, and that was part of the addiction, was I want to do it all again. I want to show that I can do it again, and I don't really care if I lose it all. I've lost it all already. Like, getting in that loop of it, and realizing that was part of the addiction, like, made me, like, slow down and go, okay, why don't I just care for what I have and actually like what I have? That helped out a lot.
Research has shown that a minimum of 200 hours needs for a person, especially coming out of the methamphetamine addiction, for long-term recovery. And I think that's, one thing that drug court does differently is that we offer that long-term solution. So when they're done with treatment, it's easy to go to halfway house or an outpatient, for a couple of months and then, go on with life. But we hold them accountable, like Alex said, for a lot longer time period. We've got multiple UAs a week, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They love that.
Well,
And so,
and on the weekend, randomly on the
Yeah.
weekend.
And on the
So
weekends, so,
and in the beginning, you think you can play that out, start writing down the days. I went in on Tuesday, I went on Thursday, okay, I got this time to do this in between that. And I literally did that. I literally wrote that stuff down and started keeping track. Like, I know how I'm gonna work this system. And then you're just like, this is crazy. This is way more work than I need to be doing. Like, I'm going crazy doing this. And just threw all that away and was like, I just need to do it. Do it right.
And UA stands for?
your analysis testing, drug testing, so, yeah.
Drug
Those are
testing.
just random.
Yeah, we call a line that has a color, that our color is given to us in the beginning, and if that color is called, then you have to come in
Okay.
that day.
And it's every day, 365.
Yep.
So,
Call the line every morning, 7 days a week for 800 days. Sometimes you call it 3 times, like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I am sure that I have taken way more time than I anticipated, and I appreciate all your time you've given me. And I just wanted to thank the board for your ongoing support of our program, and invite you to the graduations coming up, and just know that I'm here to answer any questions or concerns that you may ever have.
Yeah, I have one question then, Karen. When you have prospective clients that are approaching you new, do you present like people like Alex and Joy to them to show that this is the end of the tunnel? That this is what can result if going through the drug court? Because showing their stories is kind of very compelling, especially to someone who's been through the same situations as they have been put through. I mean, I think that'd be a huge boost.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, because one of the things, so I just had my self-eval with my boss yesterday. So one of the goals we are working on, now that I'm here full-time, time-wise, I have more time to develop some of these little extra things in the program that I think will really boost the program. And that's exactly what we're going to work on in this upcoming year, is trying to figure out a way how the Phase 5 individuals, because it's a 5-phase program, can be mentors to our Phase 1 people just coming into the program. So that is something we are working on, and will be working on in the future.
Because I joined right in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
sure.
unfortunately, it was right onto the screen.
Yeah.
And I mean, you get to see the other people, like the other, you get to hear them talk. We all check in with the judge, and we all like listen to what we all say to the judge. That was helpful, but like I was really in the middle of the pandemic. Once we're in person, I feel like it helps our Phase 1 people that come in and get to see the Phase 5 person and go in front of the judge, and the judge is like, you have 800 days of sobriety, and they're like, oh yeah, you know. So it's a lot better now that we're in person like that. But I was went right onto the screen, and
I think COVID was a struggle for
Yeah.
our participants for a lot of reasons. Obviously, they missed that human interaction, that dynamics, and just resources from a recovery perspective were also limited during that time. So we're all very happy, as much as they kind of grumbled a little bit because now they had to come in person and make that time adjustment. I think in the long run, being in person has just been so much more beneficial.
I remember, and I know I've taken a lot of time, but I remember when I first became a commissioner 100 years ago, whatever it was. And I went to my first, I don't know, AMC meeting or something. They talked about drug court. And I thought, well, why don't we have drug court? Because I thought it was wonderful. And Brandy was willing to take it on in her office, and the judge, and I thank you for that. Because this is the kind of thing that makes me very happy. I'm very proud of you too. I cry easy too. And even though we're commissioners, doesn't mean that our lives haven't been touched in some way by some of the same stories that you're talking about. So congratulations, and thank you for what you do, and thank you, Brandy, and thank you to our judges. I know it's time consuming for you, so thank you.
I would just add, you know, your stories, you know, you're talking about Phase 1 or different phases of the program that you're in, and you're at the later phases and just about to graduate, but, you know, and you look at the monumental changes you have made, but hearing your story, I want you to understand something too. I work rescue squad, and I see when we get called to some of these incidences, and it's good for us, we never get to see the backside. You know, so your rescue squad, your police, your law enforcement, that I know we're not the most favorite people you want to see when you're in that dynamic, but it's important for us to see the success too, because it's tough out there for those folks that do that every day, and and for success stories to come through, that's important for us to see that, you know, maybe we made just a little bit of an impact somewhere along the way, and to see that end result is fantastic, and congratulations to both of you.
Yes, congratulations. Thank you for coming.
And you did well, and have a group.
Again, thank you very much for your.
Thank you.
We can go. We're not gonna ask twice, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Is hospital matters
Hospital's right
here?
here.
Okay.
They hiding outside? Nicole, why are you hiding outside?
Well, we didn't come at the best.
Ah, came in the middle.
I didn't know there was a best time.
You know, you can walk in if you're tardy. That's what I've heard.
And trust me when I tell you, he should.
I'm living proof of that.
We'll be quick. We actually, our auditors are here starting today, so we have
Oh,
to
wow.
hurry up and get back. We had a opening thing about 5 minutes ago. Can't do it without her, so.
So you have the statement of revenue and expense for our first quarter. I'll just run through where we're at, year to date through the end of March. So we saw gross revenue of 19.5 million with net revenue of 11.6. Expenses at 11.6, an operating income of 500,000. Our non-operating income of 421,000, that's primarily our investment income. And then a final income of 921,000 for the first 3 months of 2023. In comparison, so what's not presented is last year in budget. So we are tracking very closely to where we were from both a gross revenue and a net revenue standpoint with last year and also budget. Our expenses are a little bit higher this year, about 900,000 year to date, but we have a couple of initiatives underway to focus on some of our higher expense categories, including the contracted labor. So we are working on that currently. And then our income, so compared to last year, we're sitting about $100,000 higher final net income year to date.
Initiatives, like I said, initiatives, expenses, biggest impact is travelers, travel nursing. I mean, that's just a huge impact. So we are making some headways. We haven't, renewed some contracts. We're still getting individuals in, but all the individuals that are coming in are new nurses and, not necessarily have experience. So, getting them ramped up, and then when we get them ramped up, then we're able to not renew contracts. Another initiative that we're looking at is our swing bed category. That's one of the areas that larger hospitals, in terms of being able to accept patients from us, we have to be able to get some of the swing beds out, and so we've had some initiatives on that, and it's going well.
Do you guys anticipate your expense to level out? It seems like it's incrementally getting higher the last 2 months. Is that just contract labor, or when's it gonna get to that point where it's a little more?
Well, I think, you got contract labor, but we did just get our market survey back. So, we do have an accrual in there for, anticipation what that looks like. So we'll anticipate what that's to be, going forward. So our goal is to continue to be on market. Our initial looks at it, I think we're to be pretty close to what we have accrual in there, so.
Historically, we haven't had a set accrual for wage increases, market changes, and so we did incorporate that this year, especially over the first 6 months, as we're kind of getting our market study back now and what we'll move forward with. So hopefully that'll help smooth the expenses over the entire year.
I
Our
think,
goal, like I said, with our budget, we have a 15% decrease in contract labor. So that is what we're trying to get to with our budget right now. We can get better than that.
and I think, Kurt, you have a plan in place to hire some aides, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to
with
have.
our, CNO looking at different patterns in terms of staffing. Right now, state of Minnesota is over 5,500 nurses short for the state. Nationwide, that's,
Yeah.
they're not out there. So we gotta figure out different ways to move.
It's a gap to try to fill, and then the swing bed is such a great deal for the patient as well as us, but then if you're not staffed to do it. So they've been working diligently on trying to change some of that, so.
A couple other things that we're looking at is, we just started with our, design phase with, looking at what the, new clinic would look like on board. We got that set up in 4 phases so we can back out at any time, but in order to get down to a real number, that we can look at going financing everything for, we gotta start with this process. But this winter, has been absolutely horrible for how many people go back and forth to these clinics on a daily basis with our providers. And, radiology goes back and forth. So to get to one radiology department, one lab department, and have providers on board that can come over and see inpatients, stuff like that, huge. And if anybody's also been into those clinics lately, they need a facelift, and it's not worth the.
I also think we talk about, trying to get providers to come to town, that a new clinic attached to the hospital would be an asset to get.
Yeah,
Because we're gonna have to be
recruiting.
recruiting, yeah, so.
We've had 5 on the line and none.
You still feeling optimistic as a county hospital? Because usually when you see those kind of numbers for a county hospital, it doesn't happen very often. That you're gonna be able to continue to survive as a
I
county?
think, your biggest one with us is, over 50% of our expenses is labor. There's been 0, increase in reimbursement, so there hasn't been a single payer, even though if you look at the news and see that they've been making pretty decent money, there hasn't been a single payer to the table to want to increase us. In fact, it is decreasing reimbursement and putting more into what's called a ACO or, quality of care, which in hindsight are, looking forward is to create more costs because we have to develop a department to drive the data and be able to do this. So, unless reimbursement makes a change, in terms of, keeping up with the expenses, I think we'll get through this year or next year pretty good. All depends on where reimbursement's at. We get the luxury of cost-based reimbursement. So, no matter what, we get 99% of our allowable cost. So we don't get the hit like a Centricare or a Alina get, or Health Partners. When they get the hit, they get the hit. I mean, if they're 25 million in the hole, they're 25 million. If our operations go in on the whole, Medicare looks at it and say, our costs were higher than what we reimbursed you, we'll pay you. And that's just part of the critical access.
That critical access and that rural health status has been really important. So.
I think also to note, what we're looking at strategically from that reimbursement standpoint is so the idea of value-based care and how we can move into that, it can be challenging for smaller organizations like our own, but we were awarded a grant of services through Rural Health Project. We were one of 6 in the nation, and so we've been receiving some of these free services to actually align us to move into more of a value-based care organization that will generate some of those reimbursement opportunities here in the upcoming future. They estimate that a lot of our contracts will shift to that value-based approach by 2025, and so right now we're trying to position ourselves on that track to be ahead of it versus trying to implement it after.
What's the anticipated amount of your capital project at this point? I'm sure that you're beginning stages, but as you know, we're in that same realm.
Yep.
And some of the numbers,
We
as you get along, are not.
We haven't gotten into numbers. We're, we're still back up, the high levels that we were last year. So we just started a week ago.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
you're in the embryonic stages.
Yes.
It's gonna be a lot more than what we're looking at, I'll tell you that. This project will be dwarfed.
Yeah.
But we are looking to build a state-of-the-art.
Absolutely, yeah. I
That
mean,
will attract doctors.
you know, the one thing that we're looking at is, you know, building for tomorrow, you know, are issues of today. And I think a lot of things that we're looking at is, you know, anybody who's been in clinic in the last year, anybody sat on an exam table really? Anybody got away from the chair, you know? So do we need a 10x10 exam room? Do we need more of an office, you know, that sit down and face to face? So we're looking at is, you know, what has medicine changed to, and then how do we design for that, and what's it look like in terms of population health, wellness, visits. Those are nurse, you know, taken, you know, a survey. It's not, you know, not a medical appointment. Screenings, how do we look at group, how do we look at telehealth? So we're really looking at is how do we design this for what we see down the road 10 to 15 years.
So you actually, when you're doing these strategies for projects, so you are still thinking about a bigger picture of in case maybe it's not a county, will this still improve the overall area and possible any other
Absolutely.
opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, everything that we look at from the building project is, we don't look at it as a county or private or anything like that. We look at it, will it meet the needs of our community in our county? And that's how we.
Obviously, bottom line counts too.
Yep, that's why it's set up, the contract is set up in 4 phases. Because once we get a phase to where we can run the numbers, numbers don't look good, we can walk out of that phase. So we're, you know, for the architect, we can walk out at 4 different times without paying the whole bill. So we set up that way in order for us to, you know, be frugal of funds and making sure that it meets the needs.
We're always searching for grant opportunities. Who writes the grants?
She
I
wrote
do
that
most
one.
of the grant.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah, even with this, I mean, we are, you know, we reached out to look at, the building project, USDA, you know, and other things that we can look at. You know, we sit in a very good spot. We have lots of options that we can look at from, financing, so we can actually pick the best thing for not only us, but county and everything too, so.
Oh, goodness.
Has the new baby been introduced to Excel yet? You know, you gotta start them when they're young. Not yet. Oh, that's disappointing to hear.
I won't make the same mistake last time and say if there's anything else, cause I know that's
Yeah.
determined.
Oh, I'm good.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Be nice to those auditors.
Yeah.
Phil Schmalz. Good morning, Phil.
Morning. I don't know what happened to the screen, they just went black on us, so troubleshoot after.
IT problems today.
Yeah.
I have paper.
It's the internet.
That's in here.
Good morning, again, Phil Schmaltz, Public Works Director. 3 items for you this morning. The first one is the seal coat contract. So consider award of our 2023 seal coat program. A little bit about the program, it includes 20 miles of pavement preservation seal coating. 4 roads, Cassette 21, 23, 28, and 31. Those first 3 are new pavement, so the action there is kind of sunscreen protection of our new pavement, keep it from drying out. And then 31 is a road that we did some heavy patching and crack sealing on last year and this spring, so protection based. One thing I'll say about the bid is yes, their estimate's pretty close. Quite a bit higher than what we had budgeted with our estimates. We have the luxury of adjusting those up until before we advertise for bids. Budget is set further in advance. That's why we didn't quite have the budget number up high enough to cover it. Seal coats, to give you an idea where we're at in that realm for cost, since 2020 our increases, our costs have gone up about 45% on seal coating. So that's why we're kind of chasing that number with the budget. hoping things level off. I think I've lost hope in things going down, but maybe we can stay flat now.
What was the reason? Getting the
Cost increase?
product or
I think
labor or?
It's a combination of materials, labor costs, and just availability. You know, the work is out there, and there's only so many contractors to do the work. But mostly materials and labor, I'd say. And we're seeing it all across, all construction. Seal coats seem to be, I'd say, our hardest hit out of what we do, but everything is on the rise, or has been. So I'd recommend awarding our 2023 seal coat contract to Aztec of St. Cloud for their bid price.
Just
Mr. Chair,
question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Beth.
I'll move to, I was just gonna make the motion.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna ask, when did you actually make the estimate though? Was that last year before our budget?
So like
or-
the one I'm showing here.
Yeah, the 610.
So that would have been probably 2 weeks before we advertised the project.
Oh, gotcha.
So that number changes as we're going through our process, you know, from budget time all the way up until we advertise the project.
Gotcha.
And we advertised for how long?
3 weeks and 10 days. That's the statute requirement for transportation projects.
Ain't that 4 weeks and 3 days?
Just
curious.
Yeah.
So it's odd.
I
But 3
had
weeks,
to ask.
It's the way you actually count it out. 'Cause 3 weeks is Monday, 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 and then you count 10 days from there. So it's not 3 7-day weeks. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna move to award 2023 seal coat contract to Aztec of St. Cloud for an estimated of $589,563.69.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Olberg
I'll second that.
and a second by Commissioner Bredesen. Is there any further discussion on the math? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Paving
Second,
contract.
yep, second item I have for you is to consider awarding our 2023 paving contract. This contract includes paving on 3 different roads in Meeker County. One of them is CASA 14 from McLeod County up to the south end of Darwin. And then an overlay on our CASA 4 from Dassel north, 2 miles. And then 640th Avenue in Ellsworth Township paving project. That's paving of a gravel road. These 3 projects, if you remember, were advertised originally in March. We opened bids and we rejected those bids, so this is a rebid of that contract. Did not get what I expected. Actually, prices did go down, so that's a good thing for our pocketbook. There again, comparing what I'm looking at for this type of work, I'd say when I compare to 2020, this is about 30% over the estimates I would have been putting together 3 years ago. So that's the kind of increases we've seen in that realm. Exact comparison to the first bid, so it's about $400,000 lower across the 3 projects than what we opened back in March.
What is the criteria to determine when a piece of gravel will be turned into tar?
In this case, it was a township decision. And the township, one thing I should cover on that project, had access to State Park Road account funds, which we helped them apply for, and they were able to get an amount that should cover their entire project costs. And to get that money, it has to attach to a lake access or state park. This one is on Greenleaf recreational area, I think they call it, from that point north. So that helped them access those funds. So it comes at little or no cost to the township in this case.
All right, any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll see if I can read this. I move to award the 2023 paving contract, which includes SAP 047-614-022, SAP 047-604-016, and SAP 047-600-013 to Dunick of Prinsburg, Minnesota for an estimated total of $4,275,187.89.
Pretty good for a school teacher.
Not too bad.
Whoa.
Motion by Commissioner Bredesen,
I will second that.
And second by Commissioner Johnson. Is there any further questions or discussion?
So, Dunning, if this is approved, we'll have the, where's their hot mix plant at?
For this project, I don't know what their plan is. So I don't know, they don't have what I'd call a permanent plant that sits and stays year round. I mean, sometimes it might, but,
'Cause they
I'd
have,
be guessing.
they have the two pits that are close, that reside in Ellsworth Township.
Mm-hmm.
So my concern becomes the haul roads
Mhm.
to take this blacktop to the, I'm assuming 18-9.
And that's something they'll have to request,
Okay.
through this project, or through the contract process. Once we award the project, then that's a submittal they'll make to our office,
Okay,
requesting the use of haul roads.
Okay.
And part of that use, we look at them before and after, they have to return them to existing condition.
because that will be a lot of travel on those roads.
Yep.
Depending on where the hot mix pit ends up being. So, thank you.
We good on discussion? Hearing nothing further, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
The third item I have for your consideration, so I didn't mention it, but we were successful in getting a $700,000 LRIP, Local Road Improvement Program, grant from the state of Minnesota for the CASA 14 reclaim. So this item is to approve the grant agreement and resolution with the state of Minnesota for that $700,000 grant.
One is CASA 14, one is, are these funds, is this like 2024 then, or, I mean, how quick are these funds available?
They're available now. So
Okay.
they were programmed to be used in 22 or 23 on 14 per our application. So we have to use them this year.
Okay.
And the culvert pushed everything, if you remember,
Mhm.
to this year.
Okay.
And that'll be a part of what we just,
Yep,
this is a blended project here.
correct. Of the approximately $3 million on the CASA 14 project, 700,000 will come from the state of Minnesota. Not our state aid funds, but state funds.
Mr. Chair, move to approve the LRIP grant agreement and associated resolution.
I have a motion by Commissioner Johnson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Is there any further discussion or questions?
Just a question for Phil. Was there more funds available in the LRIP this year? It seemed like,
So this was a 2020 bond funds, a 2021 application, if I remember right. We applied for $1.25 million and were successful getting a little more than half of that.
okay.
That was the application, if you remember, there was a ton of applicants. Townships came out in full force looking for that funding. So I was pretty pleased we got anything, to be honest with you.
It wasn't an LRIP grant that goes to that state park. That was a different one, wasn't it?
Right, that state park road account funds. That is part of the state transportation funding formula, fuel tax, if you will. A part of that goes to the DNR, who then shuffles it back to the state park road account for counties and townships to access state park areas.
Thank you.
Are we good? Any further questions? Hearing none, Corey, will you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Holbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Phil, just wanted to, where'd all the gravel go last winter? Any theories on that? There's this road,
Shoulders or gravel roads?
gravel roads, they're just,
My
without getting yourself.
my opinion is
But I mean, it's like it's gone.
there's less gravel on our gravel roads than what we think there is. I think as road owners, if you think there's 6 inches of gravel on our gravel roads, I'd say probably not. So when we blade, that's a lot of times that's the issue we run into is we don't have enough gravel. Where'd it go? Gravel disappears over time. Dust, rocks in the ditch, it just goes away.
Cause there's a lot of roads that need crowning.
Yep, we've got a lot of flat roads or roads when you see tired marks in a soft road, they're black. Well, they're black because that's the gravel we have out there.
And that isn't necessarily the county responsibility. Is that more placed on the townships as to how much and how often
Yep.
gravel is put on the gravel roads?
Yep, townships provide the gravel on their roads, we blade them.
No, I was just curious if you had a theory of I mean, a dry summer and then a hard winter on them, it's a combination of not being able to blade them effectively in the summer and then a rough winter and. And they're bad all over the state. It don't matter. It's not Meeker.
I think it's just the spring we've had has shown the issues that are out there. They've made them come to the front.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm glad I brought paper today. I was wondering if I should keep bringing paper to read off of, but
It's never happened before
I think
today.
I will. I know.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. All right.
So the first item that we have up is going to be the consideration of a resolution appointing the county assessor. I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments, and that is that, so we're recommending that Missy Voigt be appointed to the position. She's been serving in the county assessor position in an interim capacity since vacancy occurred in December, and has done a very good job of working with the team to complete the assessment in time to get tax statements out. Additionally, she and her team have done a great job of working with the public to address questions and concerns about valuations throughout the entire spring. She's recently completed the requirements to permanently take on the role of county assessor, and the Personnel Committee conducted an interview with her and are recommending that she be appointed to the position. Minnesota statute outlines the timeline for the appointment, and it's very specific in what that timeline is. Current term of the appointment would expire on December 31st of 2024, and at that point, if she's reappointed, it would be at a 4-year term. So with that, I'm available for any questions that you may have.
I don't have any questions about the hire, but afterwards, I'd like to know what the county stance will be for letting landowners know in terms of, when you've had to do these harder evaluations and increase. I've had a ton of landowners ask, they're always first, are they gonna get taxed more? And it's like they think when they go from, like, say, their evaluation from 150 on cropland to 200, they're worried about that number. I think as a county, maybe we should do something more informational to let landowners understand that we're just trying to go along with the state, and the percentage has just changed in terms of land versus agriculture versus, housing, et cetera, et cetera. It's something going forward that I think should be, as a county, would be a little more progressive about. That's the only time I'll use that word, progressive. But in that matter, yeah. I mean, because there's a lot of landowners, and they're educated, and they're like going, how much of my taxes gonna go up? Because we have to keep within, 90% of what the state is.
Yeah, 90 to 105% of the sales that occur.
Yep.
Which then drives that value up. Now, the state of Minnesota, like, especially for ag land, they look at the tier limit every single year, where they don't do that with residential. So when there's these high increases, so the tier limit to get taxed at 0.5%, right now currently sits at $1,890,000 per farmer. Now, that's gonna go up to 2.15 million. So obviously, the more land you own, you're gonna hit that tier a lot faster. But the state revisits that every single year, where they don't do that, like with homestead exclusions for residential property. Why they don't, I wish I knew that. There was talk of trying to get that into one of the legislative bills to revisit that every year like they do the ag land, because that only seems fair to every taxpayer in Minnesota that
I
has
think they should go the other way, not
as
that way.
homestead exclusion, so.
Yeah.
Don't help me anymore.
Yeah.
And so in other words, they need to get a hold of their state representatives to try to.
Well,
fix it.
my point is just that from the county perspective, we should have something educational to let landowners know exactly what is gonna happen to your taxes. Because even though if your evaluation goes up, it's not that percentage that you're gonna get taxed on. It's
Right,
a
and it
percentage
doesn't necessarily
that's
mean that
moving.
your taxes will go up.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but they don't, I'm telling you, there's a ton of them.
You're right.
There's a lot of people that don't.
And I'm
understand
related
the-
to, at least, let's see, how many in my family?
Several.
And I have to tell them that, hey, it's all on a sliding rule.
Yeah.
So,
Property taxes is a complicated system, and particularly in Minnesota. It's a constant battle to have people be educated. Battle is probably an inappropriate term for it, but it's a challenge in order to get people educated in how the system works and how changes would potentially impact their property taxes. Because as you look at that valuation, you say, well, it went up 30%. immediately you think that your taxes are gonna go up 30% too. It's completely understandable. So yes, I agree with you. We can continue to try and provide more education for people and, provide that education up front so that we're maybe not addressing the questions on the back end, for sure.
And usually these guys aren't gonna say anything or go to the assessor until they pay or whatever, or until they see, oh my goodness, I went up how much?
Mhm.
But sometimes on a county level, I think it would be a good thing to just
We
say
can certainly be more proactive in the way that we.
proactive.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I used
I
the word
agree.
progressive.
That's all right, I forgive you.
I hate that word.
I'm,
All right.
I'm kind of progressive. We're not political here.
I agree.
Sorry, that had nothing to do with appointing Missy or not. Wanted to get that out of there. I should have done it afterwards.
Anyway.
It's a
we're-
common, I mean.
Yeah,
it's
I'm sure you've gotten 100, everybody's gotten 100 times,
all
especially.
with this year, with the valuations moving.
With
in
the
it.
values and now with, with the school district doing their,
There's another thing they need to understand is we're a pass-through for everything. Everything doesn't come back to us. The school referendums pass, right, city.
Yeah, we just collect the
Some
money.
people don't understand that, so they're calling us going, well, I'm like, that's not us, you're talking, so I think some education is important.
I think it's a common thing. I can say when I worked in cities previously, we got the same comments of, the city is taking all this money when in reality, the city
No,
took
we're
10%
not.
of it.
Right.
And so there's a lot of misconception when you have different taxing bodies out there of who's making the decisions, so. Absolutely.
All right.
Are we,
So you're looking for a motion to pass this
Anytime.
resolution? You don't have a suggested one this time.
I think move to approve the resolution.
Move to approve the resolution appointing Missy Boyd as county assessor.
I have a motion by Commissioner Johnson.
I'll second that.
I have a second by Commissioner Bredesen. And this is a resolution. Is there any other discussion or
So I'm
question?
assuming there's an increase in pay here somewhere along the way. He's already been doing that intro. Okay, thank you.
I don't think so.
Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, Corey, will you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Colbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes. Thank you, Missy. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Congratulations on that test, too.
not through a bad year, so.
Hey, Steve,
Beneficial from here on out, I think.
can we take 5?
Can.
Well, this
We'll
next-
take 5 minutes.
This
break.
next one could be a longer one.
Okay. We'll take it 5
We're
minutes.
supposed to be done by now. I have a dentist appointment. We're not
Can't you
taking,
do that virtually? You
I
just
looked
open
at,
your mouth
I
in
looked
front of
at the
screen.
agenda and I thought this is
Go
a
ahead,
great
let's
day
take
to
5
take care
minutes
of my
quick.
needs. And then
If
now
the
here we
board
are.
goes long enough, you might not need Novocaine. You'll be just like,
You'll be numb. Okay.
So when you say 5, do you really mean 8?
There's 3.
Well, you
I think
guys,
he meant 5, is it? Yeah.
I said 5.
I don't know how we go
I'm
from,
good.
how do we get from 9:10
Senate.
adjournment to this?
I don't know.
Oh,
Well, we
that-
had our speakers.
Well,
Those two, that was a
That one.
full half hour
Yeah.
over what
they
we were.
belong in a work session.
Yeah, that
It's
one.
hard to cut off.
No, I agree. I just was surprised that.
No, I'm not cutting them off.
No.
I wouldn't have cut them off.
Absolutely
I'm
not.
what
It's
I'm
the only
saying.
time when I'll look at numbers and I'm like going, oh crap. That goes my number theory right out the book.
The Senate's proposing to raise that 1.9, it's 3.25 range
Oh, really?
with an inflationary.
But we've had the discussion about work sessions.
That would be one for.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Hanging in there.
Oh, shoot, I was gonna ask Phil about transportation funding, what
Are
is it?
those programs
Must not
like
be
that?
nothing. Must not be anything
You would
happening.
think-
Well, increase in license tabs, increase in
Well, of
vehicle
course,
sales
everybody is
tax,
accepted in
phase
town.
in
They gotta do
auto
it.
part sales.
It's a volunteer,
Good.
they can be, I'm sure.
And
they're
they
all
might
offered.
want, they might want, no.
That
Reports
they
that
don't
They're not
have
all
I think
offered?
Brandy's.
Oh, good.
the final word
And
on
then-
this.
big on.
Les, I thought I had more, so
Who's,
Les just went up to make
who's
some copies.
accepted, isn't it? Cause maybe if they've had 5 felonies and whatever she says no.
County
it's, you know,
program aid.
Cause there's almost so
They said that,
I think
the
that's.
governor
what
got
we have
4
to
million.
misunderstand.
The house is a hundred.
And like this one fellow,
Assuming we're next to right.
You are next,
One
yes.
time,
my 3 square,
180.
hey,
Yeah,
what the
and
heck?
some people opt to do
AMC
that
wants
until they get
150.
sick of the life, I guess.
But now,
The governor was the lowest.
oh, by far. But now we're hearing, I got mixed reports, me and Andrew talking about it, that
Why did you vote for Wallace? God, you gotta be kidding me.
Well,
Don't even-
sometimes I never know.
I kept my mouth shut for 2 years, and now I'm actually back to posting junk on Facebook because nobody's paying attention here. And it's, you know the latest rule? Now that you asked,
Yeah, no.
if you have a good credit rating
Oh.
and you're a first home time,
Oh,
this is Biden's rule, right? Not Wallace. When you're a first time home buyer and you have a bad credit rating, the one with the good credit rating is gonna get a worse credit interest rate to make up for the bad credit
Oh,
rating, so they can own a house.
They're
Now,
gonna
you'd have to
subsidize
stay
it.
awake to make this up, but it's true. So you're gonna subsidize.
oh, where's the donuts?
And that's where we got in the prices in the
There you
first
go.
place.
Well, that's what we're gonna,
Yeah.
the bubble.
Been cooking lately. Dang. I thought this was gonna be a short session.
That's
I mean,
bad.
I won't eat bread.
It worked from the dice.
Yes.
or left leaning.
Yep.
So it's not.
Is it this?
I just tried unplugging the Republic.
Cause like yesterday in our email, talking about it,
Well, not all
they
those
said the
people.
biggest pot was education.
I don't get it.
Well, my comment is, well, how come these school districts out here are going backwards?
I know.
Because they put 40, they put like 50 mandates on, and by the time you're done with the mandates,
You're
you're not
behind.
getting one dime out of the extra money.
I know,
Even
that's
with
what-
the mandates,
You're gonna-
right?
No, exactly, yeah. I just,
And why does the school district keep voting on something? How many times does it happen?
no, I
Voting
thought,
down there again.
I know.
Ridiculous. This guy is doing 630.
Little army too.
Hank Henry,
Yeah,
I don't know, it just, I guess,
we should have mid-morning.
blame ourselves, I guess.
I'm used to having
I
forenoon
love-
coffee,
I did
afternoon coffee,
Well,
and,
see, the coffee I do,
but I
You
mean,
wouldn't be
you gotta
invited
have
to
something
mine
else
either.
with
You know what it is?
I can't just drink shaky.
well, I usually get shaky, like I get one of the meetings, you know.
That should be enough.
And then, I drink the black stuff. All of a sudden I'll be, I gotta move.
Oh, yep.
I gotta get something, I gotta get water.
My son-in-law had to speak.
Something to eat. Yeah. I like
That wasn't me.
How's everybody up there
But it's not.
adjusting?
that more often.
I can't imagine.
Well, at least it's a simple fix.
But I'll tell you.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
Oh, yeah, we've
Whole
always,
different country. All right, you done yet? No.
Yeah,
Good.
wait a minute.
I have some SDS reports.
I know, thank you.
What's going on?
I already know how I'm voting.
It's just a tremendous. Yeah, right here. I dial in on the phone, then I can, cause otherwise you're trying to tinker.
I didn't know you had hearing aids. Those are,
Sit back there. Got the little
Call them
ear.
anymore.
holy crap, that's
Ear.
Over there, Ben.
Gummy bear.
impressive. You should see my mom, it's a big giant otters, you think,
Who took the gummy
like
bears?
a big old beads,
Gummy bears?
you know,
I
wearing
don't have
beads.
anything, my nephew,
Mickey ate them all with my help.
he's worked there for years. And
Helped
so,
with that.
he set me up with the appointment for breakdance started.
You guys are kinda lucky, I go to, like,
Yeah.
a board meeting in Sibley County and they don't have it's kind of a table like this and they got no place for
They
snacks.
did
You
not
guys are
recommend.
kinda.
No drawers?
No drawers.
Wow.
Chargeables?
No.
So what do you have to do?
Guess we are lucky then.
I think every three,
First and
how long did?
7 to 8 days.
I need
We
to
gotta
go
restock, I guess. We're
snack.
gonna have to
I'm not sure
restock.
they thought that they would be
What
snack
happens when it
drawers,
goes
but
dead in the middle of something?
Not a bad idea.
Tissues, pens,
yeah.
You can't do anything.
Coffee
Yeah.
Pop in a
mugs
battery,
down
keep
there.
all that
Yeah.
kind
Now that I think
I
about it, I
hadn't
think
thought
they
about
have.
that, but. Yeah.
It's tricky for, you know, you're obviously,
Really?
you can,
Wow, they got a nice boardroom
batteries,
too.
mom at
Yeah,
90.
they really do.
You know, that's the
Yeah.
bad thing, is then we'd have
Well,
to
we're kinda
manage
behind the
it
times maybe.
and know when the batteries go bad, where she can be chargeable.
Donut.
I hate those
Well,
three
where's
names
your-
she has.
We used to, I used to get donuts every meeting
to
for
do my-
Virginia
He's
Lakes.
never had a.
Oh,
I know you
love
said
those.
that.
Everyone, that was done Tuesday board meeting
Puts
days,
him
that's
on,
where I
he
went.
does one thing.
Picked them up, brought them in
Puts him
here.
on the charger.
I have 2 dozen of
Absolutely.
donuts in my
Fact.
freezer as we speak, but
These free donuts, all the meetings I would go to, but everybody stopped eating them.
I know, that's right, I'm dieting.
Stopped bringing them, and then
Those are the
people
kind
started
when I
complaining
need
about
them.
me not getting donuts.
Yeah. Like I said, I had no idea you ever had any.
can't wait. No.
Crazy. That's,
No, we probably don't
All
need
right.
them.
cause it'll happen.
Let's roll, Beth,
Hitting
let's
the
go to
go
the
live
dentist.
button.
All right,
All right.
we ready? We're back. We're good.
Good.
Oh, I bet not.
Gentlemen,
Hello.
good morning.
Good morning, how are you guys?
Much better now.
Yeah.
Good. So I passed out first of all, I met with Mary Jean before I got here today. And she wanted to pass along that she really wanted to be here, but she had some work commitments that she didn't want to leave. I think she was doing some work for a city and didn't want to leave them hanging, so she just wanted me to pass along, her regards. The report I passed out, the numbers are not necessarily what I'd love to see. I would point out that Mary Jean was out for a considerable amount of time with a surgery in her hand, which really reflects a lot of the numbers in quarters 2 and 3 especially, where she missed a lot of time for medical reasons with her surgery, and then when she came back, she was limited to what she could do with some of the restrictions that she was placed on. So,
I don't wanna interrupt you, but I don't know you, could you
Oh, sorry.
and tell me what your
My
position
name is
is?
Sean McMonigal. I am a district supervisor with the Minnesota Department of Corrections.
Thank you.
So I supervise probation and supervise release offices in Carver County, McLeod County, and Sibley County, and then I supervise STS crew leaders here in Meeker and Wright County.
Okay, thank you,
So my apologies.
that's all right.
So in terms of sentence to service, I know the new contract, the last time I was here, I was with my supervisor Dana Burmeister, who was a regional manager, and she had worked really hard to make sure that we weren't passing along any additional costs with the contract. So the contract should not pass along any increases to the county, which was something that was advocated for pretty hardly at a state level. So, like I had said, the numbers aren't necessarily what I love to see when I ran this report. That has a lot to do with Mary Jean being out. There are a lot of things that we are trying to do to try to get these numbers back up. I know I've been in my current position less than a year, and I had 4 STS crew leaders. And, STS programs across the state had kind of seen some struggles, kind of bouncing back from COVID. Others have been more successful than some. Where I've seen a lot of success in really bringing the vibrancy back to STS is, what I've done with, some of my other counties, and what I'd like to start doing here in Meeker is really providing more weekend shifts. Giving a lot of the people we have placed on probation, they work Monday through Friday. They don't have the ability to do sentence to service Monday through Friday. And so we've been passing along change of schedules for STS crew leaders, provide additional weekend days. That's something I talked to about Mary Jean. Another thing that I implemented in Carver County that's worked really, really well that I was talking to Les about this morning was we had kind of utilized Outlook's calendar schedules with STS and probation agents to allow probation officers to schedule those maybe first couple of days of STS at their intake with probation, which then allows, because what I hear from a lot of my STS crew leaders is getting them there. That first couple days is the biggest challenge. They're sentenced, they may meet with probation, and there's been a disconnect in trying to get them onto STS crew. So utilizing their probation officers to help facilitate that has been really successful in Carver County. So it's something I'd like to work with here as well. But I guess I'll open up. I mean, what kind of questions do you guys have?
Can I ask
Yeah,
a
go ahead.
question based on your
Absolutely.
handout? I'm just looking here, October through December, exited prematurely. Does that mean they got out of the program?
That could mean a lot of things. That could mean, maybe they had a probation violation in a completely unrelated matter that, that sentence to service wasn't, something that was gonna
take place anymore. Maybe they had not showed up to crew at all. I mean, a lot of times what happens is Mary Jean will get referrals, and like I was talking about that Outlook calendar, getting them to crew can be difficult sometimes, which is why we want to try to include agents in that process a little bit more, because sometimes people are being placed on sentence to service, and Mary Jean, she's sending letters, she's calling, leaving voicemails, she's sending text messages, and she's just not getting a reply back, and that could also be part of those premature exits as well.
Because it appears that quarter one, quarter two, highest number you've had over the past several quarters.
Sean, I have a quick question for you. As you look at the graph with the average crew size on there, does that include Mary Jean? So when it's 1.17, is that the 1 is Mary Jean and the 0.17 is the other folks?
I don't believe so, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Would you, do you know?
I don't think it does include Mary Jean.
I don't think it does either, but I'm not 100%.
Thank you.
Well, is it possible, I'm just, to Paul's question too, there on the October to December 22, that's also when Mary Jean was laid up?
Yes, she was.
And it seems like the summer months are a little more favorable for people to choose the program.
I know Mary Jean does a lot of work with the parks. You know, I mean, I stopped and talked to her today, and she was, showing me. I think she probably showed me 2 hours worth of stuff in her little shop in about a 20-minute period. I mean, she was really excited to have me there and really talk about her program, and she was, again, really upset she couldn't be here.
So I think also they are not doing the work at the parks that they did before, right? Because of lack of
What our parks
crews.
manager has reported is that in the past, when there were larger crews, there were more folks out there to do some of that work, and then additionally over the past year or so, Mary Jean's been a little less available to come out and help out with some of those park work as well.
Okay.
They do still
do
the work. They do some work, but it's not as frequent as it may have been in the past.
Is that coming from Mary Jean, that she's not as available, or?
I think it's yes it is, because there's work with other projects, or there's schedule changes, things like that.
I live in town here, and I used to see her van full of kids.
Yep.
It's not anymore. And so when this came up last time, I really didn't want to keep on with it, and we did. Other counties are stopping it for the same reason. I'm all for it until it doesn't do its purpose anymore, and I don't feel that I don't see it's filling its purpose anymore. I think some of this is because they're paying their fines instead. I think that the consequences of crimes are not what they used to be. I just think that's a fact, and I think things are changing. I think this was a wonderful program before, but I don't see it anymore. I'm just gonna be
No, that's fine.
honest, and it's got, and I love Mary Jean, so it's got nothing, but I can't, vote on something because of personality. She's a hard worker, but I see her out there doing it by herself a lot, so.
What is the reason for non-participation? Is it that the court system doesn't recommend, or we can't require, or, like you said, are the fines just to the point where that isn't much of a fine, I'll just pay it and then I don't have to work it off? What are the reasons for non-participation?
It's a hard question to answer. It can be a lot of different reasons. I think I saw a lot of the same reasons in other counties, and I think I've seen a lot of those programs start to come back. I know when I've met with judges and Carver and Sibley especially, those judges are saying we're sentencing these people to sentence to service, and I think in COVID, just different practices may have taken over that we were unaware had not bounced back.
But I think
So,
when we had this discussion before, the judges had said they were gonna, right?
Yep.
But it doesn't look like it's been happening.
What do you see, Brandy?
When I met with the agent that is writing the pretrial or the pre-sentence investigation reports, typically the sentencing reports that the judge would agree to and adopt, there was a bit of a disconnect on how there would be the process regarding putting these individuals in through the STS crew, finding availability, getting them actually to complete their STS with the way that the crew is currently operating. And so that was a discussion that we had. I don't know if we've seen a real change yet We got an email from the jail administrator. I was trying to pull that up, and she provided feedback. Do you recall that feedback?
The feedback generally was that there's not many people who are coming out of the jail working in the STS crew, and part of that is because there's not many people who are eligible for STS who are in the jail. And then I believe there needs to be at least 2 people coming out of there, and so there might be 1, but if there's not a second, that person can't go. And part of that is probably partially due to generally a lower jail population than what we may have seen, 5-10 years ago.
I mean, we've been seeing 16 people in the jail in the last few weeks, so boarding. So here's my question. When they say you can, do they give you a choice? You can do sentence to serve or pay a fine, or can they say you have to do sentence to serve?
It depends on how the court wants to order it. Typically, she's been suggesting that if they want to pay a fine or a fee amount, they could do that instead of having to do STS, because then the people are going out. The hopes are that they're going out and gaining employment, which is the purpose of.
So I visit with other commissioners, and they are stopping this. They're seeing the same thing, so I'm torn about where to go with this. I believed in this program for a long time, but over the past few years, I just think it's served its purpose for some reason until some changes are made somewhere else along the way. That's just my opinion.
Couple questions then. Do we know the pre-COVID numbers approximately, like the hours worked per person?
I did not bring those, and I was
Okay,
not in
that's
the
fine.
supervisory role at that time.
What
so
is our cost to the county, our actual costs,
Yeah.
STS?
So the contract for this year was $77,627, and it's proposed to be the same amount for the next 2 years.
Okay, and then the last time we did that, that's when it got bumped up.
Yeah,
time we
on the
did
last
that.
contract, there was an average annual adjustment of 3.9%.
Okay. Because my take too was I was hoping that after COVID, this is like the first real year that we'd see some different numbers, where it'd pop up. Because once COVID hit, you can't do it. The numbers are skewed that way, and it's like going, okay, well, you can't really use those numbers. But, even with her when she wasn't hurt, it's just still not great numbers when you look at it and you're trying to figure out how many dollars per hour you're gonna get, and that's just strictly numbers, and I don't know how much it helps the people now, or if they even wanna utilize it. Cause I like the idea, but when you don't see the numbers, it's like, are we just throwing good money at a bad program?
Are the
No.
fines so minimal? If I get thrown into jail for a particular reason and the fine is so minimal that I just elect to pay it instead of going out and working it off? Do the
Fine.
fees need to be raised? I don't know.
Who are you gonna get to do that?
Yeah.
So the fines are typically low. They're not trying to do a financial hardship. It's more of a consequence. They're really transitioning away from true punishment and looking at what are the areas for improvement. And that would be in Les's realm, because he would be the agents that would be supervising these felons. But I can tell you that they often come up with the dollars to cover the fee instead of having to do STS.
Sorry to jump in, but to that question of what the numbers were like pre-COVID, I pulled up the RBA from 2021 when we last talked about this.
Oh, sure.
Looking back at the state's FY18, which was sort of July of 2017, kind of through when COVID started, you saw on the low end an average crew size of 2.31, and on the high end about 4.25. In summer, fall of 2019, quarter one had an average crew size of 4.25, quarter two 3.5, and then the next quarter was 1.69, and that was at probably the very beginning of COVID, and then from there it dropped off
We're
significantly.
not even close to those numbers.
We aren't. No, we have not rebounded back to where we were pre-COVID.
And I was hoping we would, but
And what I would say, you mentioned programs that aren't succeeding, and I think the programs that I've seen that are not succeeding are those jail programs that depended very heavily on people in jail. I know Wright County is an example of that, as that was almost an exclusively jail program where everybody on STS was coming from their jail, and a new sentencing techniques that we're seeing. They don't have the jail population, and like Andrew had said, in this jail too, most of the people they have housed in jail are not eligible to do STS. the programs that I've seen rebound and been successful are successful utilizing community-based referrals from probation offices, and that's where we've seen those numbers. Because I supervise other STS crew leaders who've gone through kind of the same thing Mary Jean has had, and they've done a better job at adapting and really engaging people on probation to get them on the crew. And that can sometimes be a lot more difficult, where people who are in jail who might be doing STS, they're kind of a captive audience, not trying to use a pun there, but I mean, a lot of times STS is a way for them to work off, days in jail, fees, fines, kind of take up that time, where people in the community, they might be working a Monday through Friday job. They might have kids, Little League or baseball on the weekends. They have a lot more obligations and stuff in the community that take up that time, and it takes a lot of work from crew leaders, and it takes a lot of cooperation with probation officers to get that engagement, to get people onto crew.
Go ahead, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, you can go ahead.
So back when this program was booming,
Mhm.
I saw Saturdays where there was minors cleaning up. Now they're working like at Threads of Hope, I think you said, and things like that. I just don't think that's the issue. I'm not.
Oh, you're okay.
I mean, I'm just gonna disagree with you. I just think that when it was going good, it was going good, and I was hoping it would rebound, and it's not. And I don't know I don't see how that's gonna be fixed with the current judicial system. I just don't. That's just my opinion.
I can tell you that drug court works through STS crew leader, so they work through STS in order to place almost all of their community work service hours, because the businesses are wanting that structure from having a leader, so if there's issues, they can go back and discuss it. And so that's kind of the conduit that a lot of the drug court participants are using to get their community work service hours, is typically through STS, Threads of Hope.
But I'm assuming those numbers are in here, right?
Right.
I mean, the numbers aren't showing it. They're just not there.
Well, actually, I think those community work service numbers aren't in our database. We separate out the STS from community work service. And actually, STS is one program and community work service is another. Even though we've kind of talked about maybe having like an STS person like Mary Jean. So typically, community work service has been handled by the probation agent. And they're gonna make a referral or, have referrals so they can make it in the community. One of the ways that we've kind of thought about utilizing Mary Jean is kind of have her oversee that community work service piece. But our database is set up so that it only looks at STS, it doesn't look at the two of them together. So that the report that Sean presented you with, it doesn't talk about the community work service hours that she might, like, if someone's been placed, say out at the landfill or Threads of Hope or whatever by her, we wouldn't be able to see that by this report. We wouldn't know that. Just a couple things I'll say too about STS and community work service and all this kind of component. The thought process behind it is that, I heard one of my support staff say, oh, that's that program where we put people out so they're embarrassed, so people will know that they committed a crime. And that's kind of sometimes the way people think about it. But community work service is really designed to help people that are in that position kind of develop some value in the community that they may have done some damage to. So the idea is that they'll hold it to a higher esteem and maybe have talked to friends and stuff about being a little more careful about how they act in the community. So that kind of thought process, moving away from the idea that you're punishing people. The other part of that too is we've really seen a lot of change in our society as a whole over the last 5 years or so, and you throw COVID in the mix. So COVID then undid a lot of stuff that's still trying to come back, but it just takes time. I mean, we had a really coherent process in the jail prior to COVID, and then COVID steps in and it interrupts that completely. And then of course we have those jail numbers down from what they were before. And some people just sort of kind of get locked into doing things a certain way. They just don't come back around to change much. And then if you just look at the population, our population of people that we have on probation is quite different than what we had 10 years ago in terms of how they respond to certain expectations. And of course, our whole process is looking more at the change idea. How we help people identify, what are the core reasons that they're on supervision, and how do we help them start to see that a little bit differently. And the SDS program, I think, is a big part of that in helping people see that there's a need to bring something to the community from a pro-social perspective. That's really kind of, you get a chance to look at a different side. So that's why I think that the STS piece is really important, but we're just in a real growth period right now. That what's it look like in the future? We don't know 100% yet. We know what it looked like last year, but what's it gonna look like in a year from now? And Sean and I have talked about how we rethink this a little bit, how we re-present it in a different way, so that people aren't seeing it as a punishment thing, but it's really something that has value and it's beneficial.
Well, I would think they would value the fact that they don't have to pay out a big fine, but I think part of the issue is they don't. So, I mean, I just think this is a whole different discussion that we as a county can address here. So I just look at the numbers and the money, because I was on board here when this when there was a lot of people out using it, and I very much backed it, but I just can't anymore because of the whole political scene too, I guess.
I'm looking at the chart, I have a few questions. At the top, it says total served, 38. 38 people, right? That's the number of people
Yes.
served. And is that just Meeker County?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this chart is just.
Well, in
okay,
Meeker
it says
County, I know,
for Meeker
yeah.
County.
Yeah.
But, okay, because you had mentioned you work with multiple counties, but this is just for
Yeah,
Meeker County.
I supervise other counties, but in terms of this report is specific.
Okay, number of clients completing, so 10, I'm just looking at the very
Yes.
far right. So 10 people in the last 3 months completed paying off their fines through this program.
They completed their court-ordered STS hours. So if, they were ordered to complete maybe 40 or 80 hours of STS, they had completed that
They
during the
did
quarter.
But isn't that in lieu of paying a fine,
Sometimes they're just ordered to serve the,
isn't it?
Sometimes you are just required to serve STS
So they
hours.
require it, and if you don't do it, you go to jail?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, and then it says crew days worked, 36. So 36 days were worked in a 3-month period, that's what, 12 days a month? So they only offer it, like you said, just on the
There could be-
weekends, or?
there could be days in there that maybe Mary Jean didn't have a crew, where she didn't have anybody available, maybe she worked herself, and those days aren't reflected in this report. So those would be days that she was out with the crew.
Okay. What do they say is the hourly wage? If I'm going to work off my fee, I would be doing the math, okay, at $10 an hour and I have to pay a $500 fee,
Yep.
What is their hourly wage?
I know the DOC sets it at $10 an hour, but I know other counties will deviate from that. I know Meeker and Sibley County do $12.50 an hour. So it kind of depends county to county. I couldn't,
Okay.
so I know the DOC sets that at $10 an hour. Other counties take it
Little
upon themselves to
flexible.
change that.
Okay, thank you.
I got a financial question. If I look at 2022 and you add up the market value, that's based on the $12.50 an hour you just discussed.
Or, yeah, I think it's 10 on this
Oh,
report.
these numbers are
Yeah,
10?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I
believe so.
take that, just taking 2022,
Mhm.
and if we paid 76,000 was the 2022 contract.
77, but yeah.
Okay, so anyway, it brings us down right at $50,000 net cost to the county. If you take that value of the market value for a year, I'm using the whole year of 2022. So our net cost was $50,000 to the program. And that's at $12.50 an hour, which would be a low rate if we had to hire somebody. What I'm getting at is if we don't have this program and through parks or what, these hours are gonna have to be replaced by somebody.
Correct.
And who are we gonna replace them with? And
Well,
Why
don't you-
would we have to replace hours at a place like Threads of Hope?
No,
Not
we
that,
went, we
not
went.
that.
Parks,
That's not
he's
in it.
talking about
I'm
parks.
talking
Just
about,
parks.
this is just Mary Jean's, this is just work that they're doing for the county here, not
Yep.
any.
Counties, cities, yeah.
That's a separate
It's a separate
piece.
deal.
Because the state agencies are different and the nonprofits are getting the most out of it, So,
Okay,
are you
that's it.
saying we can't hire a part-time park worker to mow for $50,000?
I'm asking,
Yeah,
That's his question.
And be
What he's
dependable,
asking.
and we know they're gonna be there, I think we could.
well, that's my question. What,
So an important thing to note is the market value includes the crew, and so that crew is not just doing work for the county, they're doing for others
Right.
as well. So they're doing the work for nonprofits, they're doing work for cities. A good line to look at, I think, is if you look at the county line on there, it shows the number of hours worked for the county in each of those quarters.
so if we add those hours up, you're at
You're looking
just
at
about a full-time job.
essentially, yes. So, the first quarter that you see on there, 450 and a half hours, in a quarter, someone working full-time would work 480 hours. So it's just shy of that. That number drops in a couple of the different quarters in there, but, particularly during the summer months and the fall months, you can see that a lot of that time is being, essentially a full time is being spent working for the county doing primarily work in the parks. But there's also assistance help with some facility projects, some projects with the jail. There's different things that get done, odds and ends sort of things.
but then that counterbalances
No.
the $77,000 expense to run the program.
Good question.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So is it a wash?
So, I gotta have a little background here. On Mary Jean, does she get benefits for the position she's in?
Through the state,
And
yes.
who's
She works
picking
for
up
the
benefits?
state.
Yeah, and she gets subsidized, there's a portion, how does that,
I believe the state covers about 25% of the STS cost.
It's 6.17 right now is what it was last year. It varies from year to year, but
it's what, I'm
It was
sorry.
26%, 26.17% last year.
hopefully
So-
that'll change this year.
Yeah, so the 77,000 is not the full cost of the STS program. The state picks up part of the tab as well.
I thought the 77,000 was our cost.
That is our cost.
Yeah, and then the state's like, the total cost is like 90,000.
It would, well, at
Number in there,
26%, it would be a little
whatever
over
that-
100,000.
$100,000
$100,000 program.
That was before that. Who sets the $10 an hour rate?
I think that's just DOC policy. Like I said,
Gotcha.
other counties, like I had been at correctional advisory board meetings in McLeod and Sibley, and they had both just opted to go to $12.50 an hour for the rate of STS, but then also paying fines in lieu of STS.
Okay, cause some of that is just like going, if you're thinking, pay it off that way or pay it off on a regular job, you're like going, I gotta just get my regular job and I get $5 more.
Well, yeah, and I think that's why some of the counties have changed that, and there's been discussions on kind of altering that too, because that
I
is
mean,
kind of
that
very old
disparity
DOC
itself,
policy. Yeah.
that disparity itself is gonna make your number go down if you're not keeping up with inflation. And I don't know how that works in terms of who sets that, how that sets, is it based on what? The dollars that you get off per hour that you work, how that's set.
Well, as
Yeah,
Sean mentioned, it's set by DOC policy unless we want to change it.
I mean, is there some of that disparity because of that number?
Possibly, some folks may decide that they don't want to, work off that fine amount because, like you said, they can
That's
go
the
get a
way I'd
job
be
and
thinking.
Pay it off faster.
I'll be honest, that's the way I would think.
$20
I mean,
an hour at my regular job and go here for 10.
Well, am I using 2022, just using that on a down year, what we would consider a down year, we had 1,350 hours. We're not gonna hire anybody for less than 20, so that's $27,000 at 3/4 time, which also means we gotta give benefits now, I believe, if they're working 75% of full time.
Yep.
Our 50 grand is gonna get short real fast, is what I'm getting at.
So what you're really saying is, we're paying four employees $77,000 that we're getting not full-time to do our duties, but part-time, so to speak, while they do the STS duties otherwise. Is that what I heard you say?
Well, I'm saying if we gotta replace this with people, real
Yes.
hired Meeker County employees, it's
Well, I
gonna
mean,
get,
do-
and plus we gotta pay Mary Jean 26% more.
Well, if this program goes away, what happens?
Well, we're gonna keep Mary Jean.
Well, but we
Because we-
can't think about the person, we've gotta think about the position. 'Cause,
Oh, we're gonna keep
You
the
know,
position that
better-
Mary Jean is
Anybody in here gonna disagree, she's a hard worker.
Is that is that right?
But what would her position be?
Mary Jean doesn't work for us.
Mary Jean does not work for the county.
She does not work for the county.
She's a state employee.
She's a state
State employee.
State employee.
So
I
if
think
the-
this would be a good time to also answer if this, STS, if the county did not opt into this agreement any further, how would it look for those cases, those individuals who are sentenced to do additional hours through the court? Whose responsibility would that be?
Well, I think we would try, so the contract runs through this fiscal year, so it ends at the end of June. So we would try to get those hours met, those obligations met in the short amount of time we have left. And if we couldn't, then we'd probably have to have agents, going back to the court and asking for, modifications to some of those sentencing orders, because they wouldn't be able to complete STS in Meeker County. We could look at maybe going to other counties, but sometimes that's just not feasible for the people we have on probation to travel out of county to complete STS hours.
But the court would still be ordering individuals to do community work
They could be,
service?
they could be doing community work service.
And then
Be an
your
agent,
office would
right?
have
And
to
then- yep,
monitor it?
Yep, then the probation officers would monitor
That'd be an
that.
agent responsibility at that point, yeah.
So
So really,
the
we
hours
separate.
will still be ordered by the court, it's just the monitoring will still
Correct.
will be under your, there just wouldn't be a specific.
Yeah, there wouldn't be an STS crew leader to drive that.
One thing that would be real precedent in terms of these numbers is if Mary Jane's hours are or not in there, because that's one whole, you basically darn near, double what the numbers we have because you're at one. And if we're getting that many hours of work done, whether it's through the board or community or whatever, you just do those hours divided by what it costs to hire someone. To be realistic, like your numbers. That's what you're trying to
I'm
get
trying to
at.
break it down.
Which is kind of important because she's a big part of the equation. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be, I'd be really down on STS if it wasn't Mary Jean.
Well, I
because-
think that we can't, we're
No,
not, she
I
doesn't
know
work
that-
for us.
Yep.
And
Okay.
we can't make a decision. I like Mary Jean.
Yep.
If she applied for a job tomorrow, I would recommend hiring her. But I'm talking about a government program that, in my opinion, isn't working anymore, and nobody's willing to change the way they operate the judicial system in this state to change anything. It's going the wrong direction. I'm just gonna get on my soapbox here and to just keep a program for that little bit of money in the scheme of things, to me, I'm gonna vote no. It's just time to make a statement here. That's how I feel about it. It isn't just about the money to me. Mary Jean, I love Mary Jean. She's there. We've always been very clear about that. But until somebody makes up their mind, they're going to start holding these people's feet to the fire. To me, we're doing them a favor by offering them this, and we're not finding people to come. I mean,
You
If I
can't
can,
mandate it?
if I can answer the question regarding whether or not the supervisor's hours are included in there, we've included with the RBA that I sent out to you via email was the detailed report that Mary Jean puts together for us on a quarterly basis. And what she has shared with us in the past is that anytime that it shows a crew size of 0, that means
her
that she's
isn't
doing
it?
the work
by
alone.
herself, and then there's
And
no, right.
so when you add up all of the hours worked, it comes to 414 and a half. So that includes her hours as well. And that's the total amount of hours that are shown on this report here. So those hours, I believe, based on what we've been told in the past, include the supervisor's hours.
Well, here, nonprofit, St. John's Lutheran Church, one person. Nothing against that. I'm just saying that, it's almost like we're out searching for something for one person to do, right? This program, no offense, really, it's just not what it used to be. And until there's some changes made someplace, I don't see it happening. That's just how I feel about
What
it.
does the county currently budget toward this? What is our
We
responsibility?
put $80,000 in the budget, anticipating that there would be an increase this year because our funding cycle is on a different schedule than the state's.
Okay.
The state, their fiscal year is July 1st to July 1st to June 30th period. Ours is January 1st to December 31st. So we pay for essentially half of the contract under the first term, and then the second half of the year we pay on a larger amount if there's an increase. We budget $80,000.
80,000 a year.
Yes.
The state kicks in another 26%, whatever you say.
for her.
Picks up
for
the
her.
vehicle cost and the vehicle, is that ours or yours?
The state pays for that.
Yeah, all the equipment, the vehicle, all of that is state equipment.
On the judicial and prosecution end, I'm assuming they like this tool or not? They'd be more for this tool or not on
Since-
that end?
Since the courts aren't inclined to hold individuals in custody as long, I like to impose sentence to serve time. However, it's been, the language that the court has been using is you shall complete 15 hours of sentence to service unless gainfully employed, and then that's deferrable. And so oftentimes they're encouraging them, go out and get employment, or you can do sentence to serve so that you have structured time. So instead of having to do sentence to serve time, they're going out and finding a job, because otherwise they're gonna have to be out of the house anyways.
Well, then who tracks that,
The agents,
if they have a job?
correct. They'd have to prove to the agent that they're gainfully employed. There's also times where the sentence to serve is appropriate, for juveniles, and that, but it's, I think, a challenge to get those juveniles together and find those specific jobs that are available to have the juveniles.
So doesn't that go under community service then? Cause my youngest got a ticket for exhibition driving or something, I don't remember, but he had to go work, some weekends, and it was very good for him. You know, I believe in it, but I just think it's not.
That on a crew, or was that,
I think he and a couple of friends had to put a orange vest on and go clean garbage up in a ditch, I don't remember, but he had to work a couple Saturdays.
And then whatever that you just said in terms of that, I think that's smart way to do it. Either you have to do sentence to serve or have a job, cause they both are positive things for anybody who did criminal activity, cause you don't want them sitting there not doing anything. That's when they do criminal activities.
They can put that on their resume, they don't really wanna put SDS on their resume.
Yeah, not really.
There's that.
You could word it nice.
Yeah.
It's volunteer work.
Ah, yeah. So.
Is there anything in the probation funding? You know, we've been doing a lot of work at AMC and, you know, there's gonna be additional funding there. Is there anything in any of that equation that equates, that you're aware of? I know I might be asking.
Well, I would say that any of those contractual agreements between the state and the counties have traditionally been extremely underfunded, and that's part of that ask this year, is that funding flow be brought up to where it should have been. I think it's my understanding that it always should have been 50%, but it's always been about half that, just because the money's not been available, and so it's very possible that it could actually bring it up to that 50% level if the current ask were to go through as the way it stands.
Yeah, I know the number is about 60 million, 58 million, and that range would be what the ideal for the new formula, but I know they're kinda around 40 million, but that's a significant in itself.
Yeah, and
So,
But
I was just
I
wondering
don't believe
if
that doesn't cover STS.
none of that would
That's separate.
affect this program, that's,
I believe he's correct that it wouldn't cover STS.
okay, I didn't know if there was any.
You know, if they
that
choose to do
piece.
something else, I'm unaware of it. I do know that it was a big priority to not pass along additional increases to the counties for STS. Cause Mary
Okay.
Jean, she's gonna have increases in healthcare, increases in wages that, the state made a
So,
priority to not pass
so
along
in essence,
to.
it's ensuring that there won't be increases.
Yeah, I mean, I know that was a big priority to not pass along.
Okay. I mean, so
I can't
indirect,
guarantee that, in the
indirectly it
future, but,
would have a positive impact, but not huge, but
So
it's not going the other way, is what my question.
87 counties in Minnesota, how many participate in SDS?
top of my head, I don't know.
half, quarter,
Third,
Probably a third.
third?
there's three
I was
different, three
thinking-
different programs, 27 is the number.
I was thinking around north of 30 a little bit
Okay,
but I didn't
yeah,
wanna,
30.
I didn't wanna give a wrong number.
I can tell you that if you look back, less now than did 10 years ago.
Yes, and
I'll
I'll
guarantee
you're
it.
accurate.
Absolutely.
And I know I supervise a crew leader in Wright County and they're losing their program, but like I had mentioned earlier, the issue with that program specifically was always a jail-only program where the people on the crew were always specifically from the jail. And they don't have the jail capacity to do that anymore, and it just didn't evolve to start utilizing people from probation, so that program really suffered. I know the other crew leaders, like I'd said, that have found a way to engage people on probation better, and, you know, I think every county and every judge is gonna sentence differently. I mean, some of the things that Brandy's talking about isn't sentencing practices that I see in other counties, not that it's better or worse, every county and every judge is just gonna have different priorities. The thought of really incentivizing employment is probably a positive thing too, but, you know, that's not necessarily how other judges may look at that, so.
Give us a feel for how Meeker County judges are utilizing some of these options. Brandy, do they have the authority to say, okay, you're going to do so many hours of volunteer work, or you're going to do so many hours of STS work, or you have an option to pay a fee? What is the feel? I love this program. I see many good things to it, but I don't see the cost balancing out. I want to know what our judicial system is thinking.
So they are doing sentence to serve. They're not using community work service as a phrase because it really is requiring them to go through, the individuals to go through Mary Jean's program. So it's sentence to serve. So they are not offering just community work service. It's a structured requirement by the court. Or they're requiring them to do STS, but it's deferrable if X, Y, and Z, if they complete certain conditions. If they're in treatment, then, you know, your focus is on treatment, not on STS. If you're compliant with everything, you don't have to do STS. If, I don't know if they're really imposing jail versus STS. It's typically STS, or you can pay a certain amount of a fine. And it's for the reason of if they currently are gainfully employed, that could really interrupt it. And so the fine is just another consequence as well.
If we had Mary Jean working more weekends, where people who are gainfully employed could still do STS, would that be something that could impact how the judges are sentencing?
So the court has been invested in STS. This conversation that the county had about a year ago, the conversation has stalled for almost a year. And so I think that where we're at is, are we gonna move forward with STS, or is it just not gonna ever improve? Because there's been that year notice of let's try to improve STS, let's work together, the court's been on board, but the momentum just isn't there the numbers aren't showing that there's been a change. And the court's still gonna order community work service, so people are still gonna probably have to do community work service. We're just gonna have to use that language, and then the agents will have to monitor it versus going directly through a program. That'll be a change for the judges, but I mean, it's not really affecting the participants except for there's not that structured, those structured days for them to say, you're gonna go pick up the ditch on the adopt highway on Highway 24 for these 3 days. So it's gonna be, we're gonna have the agents who are monitoring them on their sentence is gonna have to figure out what is it that meets the criteria for community work service. So the court can still order those hours to give back the volunteer hours. However, the monitoring for the DOC side is gonna be a little bit different. And then in addition to that, a lot of the community businesses have appreciated having that STS structure, like I mentioned, because it's that one conduit. They know that the criteria for how they're being vetted and the communication of let's contact Mary Jean and she's gonna schedule those hours. So that's been a benefit to the community businesses.
This position that we just accepted today to advertise for the scanning clerk, would that be something that this program could participate in?
You would have to remember that these individuals are typically sentenced to a criminal record, and so I'm not sure how the background check requirement would work regarding them accessing those files. I think here it's HR files, so I'm assuming the background check would not authorize an individual to do that.
Question, Brandy, and counties that are non-DOC counties, how do they handle their, I'm assuming judges still, there's work service hours or things like that. Are you familiar with how some of them programs work, county program?
So-
CPAs and.
So Candiota County is not a DOC county. Are
They're
you guys-
CCA.
Yeah, so they're by community-based
Yeah.
supervision, but I'm assuming,
So they still do some STS here
Yep.
in Candiota County.
do they have a specific agent?
No, they have it through the jail. They have he coordinates it through the jail, and then there's some costs that contractually that come back to us from Candiota County for that program as well.
Do we share with the city of Litchfield?
No.
We foot the bill for this. Everybody that comes out of our jail system,
It's a county.
it's just the county.
County and
So
state program.
City here doesn't
County court.
participate.
County court, so.
So for like Watercade, I think that's a big thing that Mary Jean would help with.
Okay.
And STS leader, or STS crew could help set up the barricades and that kind of,
And actually, but the
Activities.
cities do reimburse, cause I know Eden Valley used Mary Jean for different things, and the city has to pay, I don't know exactly how, but the city has to pay for them hours.
Okay.
It's separate, it's.
I've never
In
heard of
every
them.
position, I
And
know
we
I've never
have-
heard of them reimbursing.
in Carver
Yeah,
County, there's,
It's broke out.
there's a Parks Department that, I mean, they have a contract with Carver County where they pay for the services of the STS crew leader to come do work there. So, I mean, it's pretty important for that crew leader to make sure that he's getting those hours met, cause, he's working for a DOC employee. It's also, they have a county probation office there too that he does a lot of work for, but then he's contractually obligated to meet so many hours for a Parks Department in Carver County as well, so.
I know, like Eden Valley, they'd use different events or whatever. Or
I can say the revenue we receive is pretty minimal.
it's minimal. but it's-
In 2020, we received $270. In 2021, we received $140.
That's really minimal.
But they haven't been up there as much either.
Skipping?
because they haven't had the crew sizes and availability to go. I mean, I know the city would like them there more. and
Yeah.
Haven't been able to have them there, so.
So our portion is 77.6. How do we arrive at that? Every county the same?
Yeah, I mean, the DOC contract is the same for every county.
Same for every
Yeah.
county?
So, I mean, the other crew leaders I have in different counties, it was the exact same contract.
Okay. I guess I was more, it's not. how
Yep,
we
it's
arrive
not
at it,
different
but
for
probably
Meeker
the same
or-
as McLeod or anybody
No.
else do.
And it used to be more, state paid more, and it switched, right? Sometime along the line, right?
I believe so, yeah. I think it was more of a state contribution.
Right.
That changed.
So if STS went away, and we have just a last quarter example, it's 400 hours. Andrew, were you saying like approximately 200 hours would have been Mary Jean's?
I would have,
I know, I don't
I
wanna
don't
put you
know.
on the spot,
I don't
but I'm
know
just,
because it's difficult to say. You would have to break out the report a little bit further. Additionally, in that specific detailed report, how many where it said, there's one crew member, is she working with that crew member? We don't have that data.
okay.
It'd be difficult for us to break it out without further information.
What I'm trying to get at is if their STS isn't there, then it goes to, they can have the option of community service. And then you guys are on the onus of taking care of and managing who they're working for and what hours. But will that number of hours change much other than Mary Jean's? I'd assume it will. I mean, so we're talking, if it was 1-to-1, it would be 50 hours a month of actual gangly employment of people in prison doing these services.
It's not necessarily just people who are in jail.
Or whatever, yeah. We're getting 50 hours of work.
I think that the biggest difference under those circumstances you can see is you'd have more of those community organizations specifically. You'd have less of like the Watercades or the Parks Department or, the STS is gonna benefit those kind of things more than the community work service hours. Because typically, if we're gonna supervise community work service hours, it's gonna be maybe, at some type of a nonprofit organization. I'm not saying they couldn't go to the parks, it just doesn't typically happen that way. Where the STS is more targeted to that kind of activity.
A lot of what I see, community work service hours, maybe food shelves, humane societies, nonprofits like he's
Gotcha.
talking about.
Which we're struggling with on the parks end anyway right now, from what so that won't change much in terms of that.
Correct. I would say that if the board were to decide that we don't wanna continue on with this contract, there would be a need for the county to hire on an additional employee to cover the hours that have been taken on by STS over the
A
years.
full-time employee or a part-time employee?
I think realistically,
Summer employee?
a full-time employee realistically.
Well, I
When-
realistic think we could hire a summer employee, that's my realistic.
Because there's more work that occurs than just in the summer. Also, as we look at, if we were to hire that position, you know, I just ran some numbers, if we were to hire the position at the same level as our parks maintenance worker, full-time, the cost would come out to be about the same as what we're paying for STS right now.
Full-time with benefits.
Full-time with benefits.
What does Braden do in the winter?
There's a lot of maintenance work that they do,
Doesn't he work at highway too?
there's trail grooming that occurs.
Oh, so he doesn't work at highway. I thought he has an employee that
His
works.
full-time employee
Got
plows
it.
snow.
Okay.
Well, we're averaging 1.25 employees at low numbers right now, so I mean, have to replace one for sure, and
Well,
we're not certain, Mary Jane's, in those numbers.
No, we are.
We are certain.
I'm fairly certain.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Those counties that change the dollars per hour, is that early too, or did they see any change in their numbers once they did that?
I mean, that was just more of a, and I think the bigger issue, the reason they changed it was people who were opting to pay a fine instead of maybe STS hours, you know, more of an incentive, but I couldn't speak to if it's changed.
Okay, so it's
I mean,
not gonna, it wouldn't be a game changer is what it's looking like at this point anyway.
I think one of the, if I'm remembering in McLeod County, one of the public defenders wanted to do it because the math made more sense. I think at $12.50 an hour, it was $100 a day or something, so it was just simpler to keep track of,
Oh,
so.
gotcha.
I mean, it seems ridiculous, but that's what they wanted, so.
Yeah.
So the only additional thing I might throw out there too is we have a history and then we have something that happened here kind of, and then we still have the potential for change down the road. We know where we're at now, and will we see this, possibly see this, those numbers start to come back up, and I think that's very possible, but then if you, of course, decide to end it, then that possibility is gone.
But I heard
So-
that 2 years ago.
I know.
I'm just gonna,
I
I'm
get
not,
that.
I mean,
I
we gave
understand.
this a 2-year experiment and the numbers are getting worse, not better.
I completely.
And I'm not
understand
blaming anybody here. I've got other people I'm blaming for
that.
this, trust me.
I completely agree and understand
Okay.
and see where you're coming from on it. I'm just saying that, but if you get rid of the program, then that possibility for that increase down the road is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
And I know Sean and I are both gonna work really hard to try and get those numbers up where they need to be.
Like I said,
You can only use so
I've
much.
seen other counties with
Said they only can
the
use
bad
so much.
numbers, and we've done things that have more increased those.
I would like to know how
But-
many, I'd like to know how many counties have quit this program in the last 6, 7, 8 years. I don't know.
I know Wright County's getting rid of theirs right now.
Hope County did a while ago. They're a
And
small
I know,
county.
like I said, the Wright County, that was, I mean, every county's a little different,
Without
that
additional,
was
they're doing
a
it
jail-heavy program that just didn't.
Yep.
I think it's too bad that it isn't working. but
in a nutshell.
Yeah, I just don't know if that's. the
Anyway,
figure
Mr.
or
Chair.
not, though.
Paul, share
Cause
that.
it'd be a more lower like hour.
Gentlemen,
Too many sidebars.
We're having a sidebar over
Yeah,
there.
Yeah.
I wanna
Sure,
hear,
sure.
your
Well,
numbers.
No,
Yeah.
I was just trying to put this into my head in a way that
Yeah.
break it down. So for $77,000, we get an employee. Sometimes we get one or two more doing other things in the area. We get a vehicle and all of us expenses paid. So that's what we're really getting in, the
Tools.
cost of tools,
what,
yes.
what,
A lot
I
of
mean, I
tools,
don't
yeah.
know what you carry.
So is it meeting the needs of Braden?
At times, I would say that it is.
I thought he said it's not like it used to be.
It's not like it used to be.
Okay.
That's why I say at times it
That's-
is.
Yeah, well, so I'm telling you, it's not like it used to be.
And it's, yeah, and like I said, Eden Valley, I know haven't utilized them because they don't.
Well,
have
you're
to
talking
be-
about $200 here. I mean, you're
Well, I
not
don't know
talking
if
about
that was-
earth-changing money.
No, but it's work for the people if we
Yeah,
have.
I hear you.
I'm just saying, these communities will have a need for it if we get more people into the program.
One thing to put numbers in, just when you brought that up, and actually, if you had a full-time wage, it'd be like 640 hours, or what do you base for 4 months? Andrew, what's the actual,
For 4 months or for 3 months?
or I meant for 3 months, I'm sorry, 3 months, a quarter.
120 hours. Well, I'm sorry, let me take that back, hold on.
280.
What's the,
480 hours. 480 hours.
so slightly
Because
under,
it assumes 40 hours a week for 12 weeks.
gotcha. Yep. So
Well, that's what I'm trying to do.
you're
too, is
within
just
striking
less-
distance, and
Yeah.
With bad numbers. You know, these are with the numbers not being
Any,
good.
another employee, if there's a work comp claim, it doesn't go against us. You know, I'm just kinda,
Well, if this goes away, Braden will be coming to us with the request for a full-time employee. I foresee that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
So you either pay it this way, or
it
you
wouldn't
pay
be
it that way.
full though, right? To be honest, cause I thought only half of this is budgeted towards him, right?
Half of it's budgeted towards the Parks Department.
Yep.
That's correct. But I would imagine that, we'll have to vet it further, but I would expect that there's a request for a full-time employee.
But he's struggling right now as is though.
Correct.
So he may be still saying, hey, but we're still getting far behind, so it's not totally correcting his problem.
Correct. I would say that, without more crew size, or without larger crew sizes, without more availability to go work in the parks, it's a challenge. It's gonna be that. The other challenge is, our park staff aren't out, maintaining the parks on Saturdays, because that's when people are using the parks. And, we don't really wanna be out there mowing while people are out there trying to enjoy it. And so, having the crew be available on the weekend is not particularly beneficial to our Parks Department either.
And have we seen any counties that have STS that actually have an improvement by implementation of a different idea on how to make it work better?
In Sibley County, my numbers have gone up from being pretty bad coming out of COVID to he's averaging 2 or 3 people on a crew a day, and that's Sibley County.
And what did they do? Did they do anything different, or is it just happened to be Sibley County?
I
just
think one of the
happened
things we did differently there was we they're being sentenced differently. They're not, they can't defer through employment. And the judge had kind of set a firm, and it's a small county, so it's, one judge who I think there's 0.8 time, 2 probation officers in the county, and that she's sentencing them to sentence to service. She wants to do it. So a lot of those sentencing orders are coming out, complete STS by, it's usually a 6-month period. If they're not completing those hours at the 6-month period, agents are doing what's called a sanctions conference, which is a violation that's not necessarily needing a court date and court time, but, a judge is signing off on that, just kind of reaffirming those hours. If that person is not engaged at that point, then that's a violation that'll go in front of the court.
But that's that judge's discretion. It's not
Yeah.
our job to tell.
No,
recommend
and
anything.
I think there's a lot of value to the way the
Yeah,
judge
and I
is
do
doing.
too.
So
I 100% agree with that, so. I
Bottom
just,
line is that the court system is our feeder here. They feed the system. Without their support, without them offering or demanding that this be done, we are just footing a bill for something then that won't work. What is the demand?
Sometimes programs don't work. This program isn't working anymore for a lot, I'm just gonna quit saying it, for a lot of reasons, and I don't know how you're ever gonna bring it back without some big changes in the state we're living in. And I don't think that's gonna happen, that's just my opinion. I would rather than hire a full-time employee that we know we're gonna have out there working when he's needed. If that's what it takes as a
Year
full-time
round.
employee, I'm not,
Year round.
I might debate that a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, our jail's got 14 people in it. I don't think that's because, there's a lot of reasons, but the census on jails being down isn't because crime is decreasing, is my point, if you know what I'm saying. So, if you're just gonna even strictly look at it money-wise, then I guess it's gonna cost us a little more money, or no, to get a full-time employee.
It's about a wash.
It's about a wash, and you have a full-time employee that you know you're gonna have.
Yeah, minus the vehicle.
Yeah,
So we-
there would be a need for an upfront purchase of vehicle.
But then you're getting closer to a more of a or the other way a little bit, but they saving
Maybe you
state
have
dollars.
maybe you have another person to put into highway in the wintertime a little bit too. I
That
don't
would
know,
absolutely be.
Because
That
we
would
certainly,
be-
would
we
word the
certainly have
job
struggled with
description.
that.
That's exactly the route you'd have to go.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
And not
Isn't that what
necessarily
we
a
did with the
vehicle.
last one we hired, was we?
Not
Yeah.
necessarily
Yeah.
a vehicle.
Yeah, they have the-
Another
For a
Paul.
job, not everybody who works here has to have their own vehicle, so.
Anyway,
The only thing I'd say is I don't think it's necessarily 100% in the court. I think a lot of the
No.
responsibility for these programs to succeed falls on us in the DOC, and I think where I've seen some of the improvements in some of the crews has taken a pretty concentrated effort of making sure that agents are following through. Because I think in COVID, there was a couple-year period where STS wasn't happening, so agents kind of lost those practices of following through with violations on STS, and really reaffirming that they start doing those practices, I think was one of the biggest reasons we saw STS numbers go up in Sibley County, because we had people who knew that if they didn't do it, what was gonna happen, they'd pay a fine at the end of their probation and be done, to, if they didn't do it, they were gonna have to go to the judge at some point and explain why they weren't doing it.
I 100% agree with
You
that.
know, another
I don't
thing,
either.
I'm just thinking of Sibley County and the way it lays out too. If you have a judge who issues employment in lieu of, we've got so many jobs here, it's not hard to go find a job.
Yep.
And is there, in Sibley, I don't think,
I think it's wonderful that people are finding jobs if they're keep getting the job
Yeah.
and sticking with it. I do, that's just fine.
I prefer that route versus other
But-
STS, and it's not our job, just make STS go.
Correct.
That's why the judge, I think, that's the way I would roll.
I mean, the judge sentences to STS, but I think it's, myself and Les and the agent's job to make STS go.
Yeah.
I think if you don't have the people, you can't make it go. I'm not blaming you. It's just, it's a whole new atmosphere out there.
Do we have to move on this as an issue today? Or where do we move forward with this?
So we've received a request from, or we received a letter from the state which outlines the contract amounts for, FY '24 and FY '25. We haven't received the actual contract for signature yet, but I think it would probably be worthwhile to, give some direction of, do you want to have another discussion about this? Do you want to take action today? Those, I think, are the options. And the action options that you would have would be to, authorize us to execute the renewal of the contract, to, cancel the contract at the end of this term. Those would be your options. Or if there's another option you want to pursue, we could.
Can I make a motion? And just see if I can get a second. I'm gonna make a motion that we do not renew the sentence to serve contract.
but if we do nothing, we don't need to make a motion not to do it.
Oh, we don't?
Technically, the contract would expire at the
Okay.
end of the term, but,
Okay.
I thought the way he
but
explained
I
it,
also,
end
I
of
also
year?
think that having,
he wanted direction.
Is
That
that
was gonna
end of
be my
year?
direction.
Yeah.
And
June
June
30th.
thirtieth,
Contract is fiscal year.
yep, the state fiscal year, which ends June 30th.
ends June.
Okay.
I think it's worthwhile to have action from the board on it, because then it provides me with clear direction that you don't wanna have another discussion about.
So I stand by my motion.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'm used to it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Olberg.
I'll second the motion.
And I have a second by Commissioner Johnson. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to hear the wording of the motion.
I made a motion that we do not renew the contract for
That-
sentence
okay,
to
so it'd
serve.
be the end
That's
of
coming up in
Fiscal year. All
fiscal
right.
year. That's the motion.
Thank you.
Well, my discussion is leaning heavily not to renew it also, but what I'd like to know is more on, I get the numbers in terms of what we have, like you talked about, in terms of what the math means for employee and stuff, and we kinda get that part. But it's whether the program has some other intrinsic positives that we're not figuring into it. I don't know. I mean, we just had the other thing, I don't know how much how much the drug courts are costing us.
Are you telling me you're not gonna vote for my motion?
No, I'm
Commissioner
not saying that. No, I'm trying to, I wanna know exactly if on the court end and on probation's end, that they think it's a dying system. I mean, move on.
I
If
think they
there's
told you
any-
that, I think we had that, didn't they tell you 2 years ago? I missed, I know we had this discussion 2 years ago, then I think I was gone and got voted on to keep it. I don't remember exactly, but I thought there was some discussion with probation and the judges at that time, wasn't there?
I had a conversation with Judge Beckman last year, so
But
not
last
2
year?
years ago, but
Okay.
last year.
Sorry.
And, you know, she has been a supporter of the program because of the opportunity it provides people to give back to the community, you know, as they work through their offense.
Okay, I must have,
But
I
there's
guess I didn't
still-
understand then.
There's still the volunteer community service program besides this.
I guess, and
That's an option.
my thought is, I'd like to do a little more math, I'll bring it back in 2 weeks if that's.
Fine, I'll just withdraw my
Well,
motion.
hold on, no, no,
I'm not, we've,
I've got a second here on this, so.
okay.
What could be done by not Beth or I, one of the other three, could make a motion to table it to the May 16th meeting to gather further information. Then we could move it off the table at the 16th meeting and finish the discussion.
Yeah,
What
and
kind of information do you seek?
kind of what Danny was talking about, a little more information from the courts side of thing and maybe some additional information from DOC to see.
Because that would not kill, correct me if I'm wrong, that would not kill the original motion.
Correct.
We would still have it, it's just laid on the table till the 16th.
Well, why don't I just withdraw? Isn't that easier?
It'll be placed
I
on
mean,
the
I don't
agenda
care.
I want
this
to.
way.
I personally
How you
want it
do it.
resolved by at least then anyway, so we don't
That's-
keep
we gotta-
hitting the dead
Fine,
horse.
however you wanna do it. I would
but-
like to know how many counties are started and how many counties are left when you're getting information.
My point would be,
That's-
we've had a lengthy discussion
Yeah.
here, and usually when we have a lengthy discussion of this nature, we don't quite have all the information we need, and we tend not to make our best decisions. So I wanna just get enough
Okay.
information that we make whichever way it is.
That's fine.
You know, we're coming,
I'm all on
placed
your,
on the
I'm in agreement. What do I have to do? Anything?
So what kind of direction are you giving for additional information? Numbers for Andrew, from Andrew?
Well, what I've heard is they would like to hear
Yeah.
from, the folks at DOC, the number of counties that are continuing to use the program, you know, other intrinsic benefits that the program provides.
Keep me down.
Support from the courts.
just
I'd
told
like
you
to
the
know
truth.
if they're going to be more of a push to utilize this, if there's even an option to utilize it more.
yeah,
like to-
if
What's the
there's.
sense in my mind?
To piggyback off, I'd like to see if what negative impacts that we're not thinking about the courts may see if we cancel this program.
That's
There you go. Yep.
That's-
Merits,
better,
detriments.
I don't wanna be too, I look at the numbers, I think it's a dying program just because of what we're living in, but I don't wanna make a whiplash decision right now. If there's something else I'm not thinking about, but when I look at the numbers, I think it's a program that's just, I don't see. When I look at it black and white, I don't see the I don't see the value to it myself as a commissioner.
You know,
I'm not that far off from where you're at, I wanna hear someone to say,
I understand.
you're
but
missing something big.
I think sometimes we have an opportunity to have a voice in a state program that doesn't work, and I think this is one of those times.
And it-
Drug court, for me, I'm behind it. I'm all for it. Supporting Hands I went to yesterday. It's, you know, that there's preventative things. This is no longer one of them in my mind. And I can get into a lot of reasons why I think that is, and I'm not gonna do it here, but I'll talk to you in private about it. But I'm willing to, what do I do? Put the motion aside for now? That's fine, I can do that. For more or how shall I do this?
Is May 16th gonna make are we gonna have enough time in that particular time? Cause that's a big day too.
I might not be there. I have a trial.
On
So
the
if you're looking
16th?
for feedback from me,
I already have your feedback, my dear, unless you wanna send
the
out more.
court.
Yeah,
So
It's because of all
If
the
the- if the-
building stuff.
if the questions are that how many counties are continuing to, perform the program, what intrinsic benefits are there, and what detriments would occur in the event that the program were discontinued, I think that's information that we can turn around for the 16th. If there's other information that you're looking for,
so we won't have to have a long discussion.
No.
Just
it would
provide us
just-
with the
It would be
information.
a basic motion.
Well, and can we
Agenda item.
completely verify these numbers on this chart too, that,
Who's involved?
yeah, who, the effects? I mean, is that, let's just verify the data on the chart that we understand it.
Why isn't it right?
Well, it is, average crew
Understand.
size, stuff like that.
One,
Probably the key term you just use, make sure we understand
Well,
what that
Yep.
data.
If it says zero, she's out on her own.
Yep.
There's nobody to go with her.
No.
You have to separate the county work out from the nonprofit work. There's different ways. I think
we,
that's all.
we can confirm that the average crew size includes Mary Jean, and we can confirm that the hours include Mary Jean as well. We can confirm that.
Okay.
Yeah, that,
very good.
I mean, I
Yeah,
just,
that would-
I'm with Danny, I don't wanna,
I'd also like to know on the parks end is if we're gonna need additional employee, whatever, a half employee or not with this program, cause then that puts it to the point where, well, crap, we're gonna need someone anyway, then why are we doing this program?
Well, I think he's told you that. So-
He's told me that, kind of, to the degree, I mean, is that pretty firm in terms of that? I mean,
I haven't said that by continuing with the STS program, we're gonna absolutely need another employee at some
Right.
point in the future. What I'm saying is that if crew sizes continue to be small, and especially if the schedule then focuses towards the weekend, it reduces the amount of time that's available to go and spend time in the parks. At some point, that will cause a need for additional help in the parks in order to fill the gap that STS had been providing. I'm not saying today, I'm not gonna say that it's gonna require a half-time employee, I'm not gonna say that's.
No,
gonna
I
require-
wasn't
we don't
putting you on
know
the
what
spot,
that would
like,
look Yeah.
well, that's what I'd like that too, does Braden think that one isn't gonna do it? You know what I mean, what,
and then we have to decide, do you just get rid of the program and hire someone for that, and then say the program is, I don't care what it costs in terms of that, it costs what it costs, and
do we
Yeah.
need a motion to table this? Does,
Yeah, I think a motion to table would probably
I
be
so
sufficient.
move that we table this discussion and decision until May 16th.
I have a motion by Commissioner Bredesen,
I will second that motion.
and I have a second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to table to May 16th, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
If I provided my card to you guys, that way you could contact me if
Sure.
you think of anything you, like additional clarification of questions or information you might
Absolutely.
wanna have for that May 16th meeting, I can make sure. I have it. Yeah.
We'll probably route
Thank you.
questions through Andrew so that
Oh, it's okay.
that way he can dispense it back to all of us without,
So will the court feedback, if you're not there, are you gonna basically give that to Andrew too?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
For
This is
me,
not-
it's like a
this
2-minute
is
warning
nothing
to the
personal,
court to
you
say,
understand that.
we're heavily thinking
This is
about
just-
STS gone,
Got to be a little.
then tell us why
Appreciate that.
we're done wrong.
we
That's the way I look
Thank you.
at it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
judges are like lawyers, it's gonna take 2 weeks to get an answer.
Oh, yeah. We don't get charged to the lawyer fee for that, do we?
What if we went away from DLC completely?
If what?
See, I'll take it a step further, Beth.
Here we go.
I have my reasons, but.
I'm gonna move for an adjournment here because I have to go to, an appointment that I'm 20 minutes late for that I waited. So,
What do we have left,
Let's
just
together.
committee reports?
do we have, you wanna
Just
have more
committee
discussion
reports.
about this for real?
If we're gonna move to adjourn, I just wanna say really quickly, of course, as you know, we're gonna have that special work session on the 16th regarding the facility plan. As a reminder, if you have any specific questions for the consultants, or if you'd like to have a direct conversation with them, let me know and I can help schedule it.
What the heck did you just say?
We're having special work session on the 16th
Never
regarding
mind,
facility
I'm
plan.
kidding.
Yeah,
That's all I have.
we have a
Was
lot
that
on the
after,
16th.
or when
Are we
was
done
that?
here?
What-
It'll be after the regular board
Committee
meeting.
report quick?
Like right after?
I'll wait.
I don't have a
I'll wait
time
for
yet.
you.
I wanna
Okay.
see
But
what's
I'm
all
not
gonna be on the
make it
agenda
now
for
anyway.
the regular board meeting. If it's gonna be a more substantial board meeting, then we'll do it in the afternoon. If it's gonna be a relatively short board meeting, then we'll do it immediately following.
And you're gonna have breakdowns for our numbers then, before then?
Yeah, well, you have the numbers.
I meant the levy numbers, the finance
Yes, I'll
numbers,
have financing
all that
information
stuff.
for you. Yep.
16th, here's a calendar.
So we're getting ticklish on that too, because the hospital's gonna do something, they're gonna bond, we don't wanna end up bonding in that same year.
It's a board meeting.
No, we'd have to,
Yeah, we're not gonna
one way or
bond.
another this year regardless.
Should I do my committee report?
Yes,
Yes,
please, go ahead.
So what did I have? I had a public health exec meeting, we went over the increases. They had a large discussion about Juneteenth, and because all the counties aren't doing it yet, I didn't realize that that doesn't start till next year.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Juneteenth, the holiday starts next year, is that true?
Yeah, we had that discussion when we
But,
approved
so
it.
when did we, so they said Meeker is doing it.
We
and-
are,
But when did you start it? For next year?
for this year.
For this year?
Yes, that we, as you recall.
Oh, they were right and I was wrong.
Yes, as you recall, we adopted our personnel policy.
I know we did, but I'm gonna just tell you, I felt a little bit out of the loop because I thought it had to start this June and it turns out it didn't have to start till next June.
Okay, we very much had that discussion.
You probably did. And so there's counties that are not doing it yet, is my
Well,
point. So the CHB, I just didn't realize that till I got to this meeting, so that's my fault. We have an infrastructure grant we talked about and how that money was gonna be distributed. That was that. I had a Woodland Board meeting. That was pretty, we had a review for the CEO. That went well.
Missed that one, darn
I
it.
know. Outreach, we did. They did some outreach in Pope County after the deputy was murdered, so there was a good response from that. The public health emergency, probably everyone knows, is ending May 11th. I had a quality improvement meeting at the hospital. They went over all the stats about, they had a mock survey because the state is coming in to do surveys like they do every, I forget how many years, so, that was good to have, they're working on that. I had a SHIP meeting yesterday, supporting hands, the new director seems to be doing a good job. We had some success stories. A 17-year-old girl with a 5-month-old baby has been they started working with. She's been accepted to college, doing her own thing, just great stories. There's a 21-year-old from Ecuador that became a citizen, enrolled in college. Every one of these gals is continuing to breastfeed, which is a good thing. I think there's gonna be a presentation on supporting hands, isn't there, Andrew?
Yes, at the next work session, next regular work session on the 23rd.
We talked about, that's about it. We talked a little bit about the public emergency ending and how that's gonna be handled. And it's National Nurses Week, the 8th to the 14th, so we wanna thank all the nurses. That was my stuff.
All right, thank you, Beth. We appreciate you hanging around if you gotta
No
get
problem,
going.
I'm gonna take off.
Julie, do you wanna
Okay, I'm next.
bring in the next lineup?
Our last reports were on the 18th. That Tuesday of the 18th at 11:30, we all had lunch at the American Legion with students from Boys and Girls County Government. That was wonderful. It was the 38th year of the American Legion hosting that particular event. There were students from Litchfield, ACGC, and Eden Valley Watkins. It's always fun to visit with students and their advisors. Legion served a delicious chicken and mashed potato meal, and it was wonderful. And I want to thank those who served and the Legion for that opportunity to participate. Then on Thursday, the 20th, I attended the Pioneer Land Library meeting in Wilmer. We were presented with the annual audit report, the annual year in review report, Pioneer Land is healthy and moving forward. And we hired a new librarian for the Glencoe Brownton Library. Then on Tuesday, the 25th, we had our work session with the Xcel Energy representatives. This meeting was well attended by about 60 concerned citizens who were seeking information about the forthcoming transmission line, which will be coming through Meeker County. Then the next day, on the 26th, we had our work session with the architects in regard to the courthouse, law enforcement, and family services remodel project. Yesterday, I attended a personnel meeting. And here we are today, and that's my report.
All right, thank you, Julie.
Very good.
Paul?
Okay, let's see. 24th, we had a CPT meeting, it was a full board meeting. We did take action to no longer serve North Dakota and commit ourselves to the owner counties of Minnesota and the additional counties that use our products. But we're centering more to Minnesota. And it's really because of a programming language. Most programs are now written in Java. A lot of the North Dakota programs are RPG. I don't know what either one of those two stand for. It's just Java and RPG. So, and there's everything trained in college now is Java. So everybody we're hiring that's new comes with the newer technology training. So, or newer program language training, and it's not, from what I understand, a real easy to teach RPG. Shortages there caused that. Then last Thursday, I had a UCAP meeting. Still not happy about that because the decision there was to close the classrooms for Head Start in Cosmos and Raymond. And, you know, every time they do that, and I understand, sometimes you gotta cut an arm off to save a life, right? It's kind of the case here. We had X amount of money. We gotta make the chop. But you take a little community like Cosmos, it's more than just a Head Start, because the local restaurant there furnishes the Head Start meals. They utilize the gas station, the convenience store. These communities are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now these kiddos are also gonna have to be either bused, or their parents are gonna have to take them farther to go to school. So they're gonna have to have time off from work in all likelihood to take them or bring them back. So the policy committee had a split vote, but the full board, it was only I and one other person that dissented on the vote. And so I was just disappointed to see that. I wish we could have looked at all of the funding and somehow found a way to have funded these two smaller classrooms. But the decision was made to, after this year, those two classrooms will be closed. So, and then there's always the promise, well, if we get money, we'll bring them back. When have you ever seen them come back? Especially to the smaller communities. So I was real disappointed in that. So that was kind of it for me.
Daniel?
Yeah, I just had the two work session meetings, and both of which were a lot of disappointing things throughout them, to say the least. And on the Excel front, the fact that they don't have to go through permits to do DNR land, is there any way where we can have them do environmental work impact statements for the lands they go through our county?
Private lands.
Private lands?
I thought they said they did.
Yeah, that's what they had said, is they have to do an environmental impact statement.
That is approved by whom?
It's approved by the Public Utility Commission.
Oh, yeah, what does that mean? I meant our, something where we have some teeth on. Yeah.
Around this, or just like everywhere in Meeker County, or just the routes?
The routes that they have depict that they're gonna use, the 3 routes, it's just like to me, some of their arguments are just so weak that they will not go through DNR land just because they have to go through a permit process. But their DNR land is right next to, say, pasture land that has the same wildlife. Why are we being, go right through them but go around the state land? To me, that just seems absolutely disgusting, to be honest, to say the least. And I don't know if there's any avenue there where we can pursue in terms of that to at least, you know, say, put up a little bit of stand. I don't know. I don't wanna put in thousands of lawyer dollars, but I actually want it to be known that, let them know that, hey, I don't think that's right. And at least this county puts a stand to that. And everybody knows on the other work session, the disappointing numbers in terms of what the project came through. But so I don't know if that's something that needs to be vetted in terms of that. I don't wanna put up a ton of dollars in terms of wasted dollars, good dollars, that bad thing. But there's a part of me that just thinks that's disgusting.
And that's a topic that I think I could work with Andrew and go back and speak with the individuals that provided their contact information for us and just see what their response would be. And then we could share that with the board, and I can do some digging around as well to see and provide that feedback and information. So it's an avenue we can vet further.
Yeah, my concern is that because I don't know what our statutory authority is, so we'd have to research whether we have any statutory authority in this realm, because the permitting process goes through the Public Utility Commission and not the county. So, but we can take a look.
No, I get that. It's just that part where they said they go around the DNR land because they don't wanna go through those permits that the DNR sets, which is who's in charge of the DNR. They're not gonna go that avenue because we've seen what happens there. That doesn't seem right, but they're gonna go through a pasture that's right next to the DNR land that it inhibits the same amount of wildlife that go back and forth. It's ridiculous.
I understand the
No,
concern.
I get
It's
that.
just, do we have the authority? That's the question.
And that's what I'm asking.
And
Period.
we can research that.
Yep. That's all I have. Just disgruntled. I didn't even go to a Woodlands meeting, so.
No, I can agree. There's lots of things in that XL meeting.
Frustrating, to say the least.
That's a kind word.
Yep.
So, I had a Vets Council meeting on the 20th. Their new van, I got to look at that, looks really sharp. I think they had pictures of it at the Legion that day on the screen, but, I got to see it up close and personal in the garage, and, turned out really nice, and they already got 5,400 miles on it, and, they've, done about 30 trips, so far to St. Cloud this year, and I can't remember how many to Minneapolis, but, Vets Council continues to do a great job for the local veterans, kind of one of them quiet operations within the county that, operates on their own funds and just does a great job for the local vets, and we have a high vet population in the central part of the state here. And, they talked again, they're gonna do meals at the fair. They have a vet stay at the fair where they give out a ticket to a vet, for free meals, I think at the 4-H booth, or they're gonna do that again. That they donate $500-600 there every year. And also, I think they're talking about, Quilts for Valor is a program. One of the ladies that sold or kinda heads it up is out of Eden Valley, and they did, I think, 180 quilts for the veterans, Eden Valley Legion, and, from, all the members, and they're continuing that outreach, so now the Vets Council is gonna use, I think, have them make a quilt that they can somehow give away at the fair or raffle off type of scenario at the fair. So just more outreach. So doing a great job over there, and things. They also, I think, Tim has addressed the telephone issue in the garage that he wanted to get. I think between the DAV and Tim's office, they came up. They're working on some sort of a resolution there to get a phone out there so they can forward those calls. So that's Vets Council. And we had the XL work session that everybody talked about, building project work session. Grove City Care, we're still working on the audit there, but everything seems to be moving along pretty smoothly in Grove City. We had a MRC Zoom meeting yesterday. Quite a lot of information there. Emergency management grants. It's a 24 and 25 will be coming through. The Senate has a $1.5 million number on it, and the House has a $2 million number on it. So somewhere in that area, that'll be for local emergency management areas, and that's an increase. So that's a significant amount of dollars. I believe it will be, if I remember, that'll be done per capita, per county. So that'll be a nice increase for our Stephanie over at emergency management, some funds to use locally. County program aid, the House has a $100 million number. The governor has $40 million. The Senate at one time must have proposed $180 million, but now have kind of backed down into the governor's range of $40 million. So we're hopeful that we could get that county program aid up in that $100 million range. AMC was kind of asking for $150 million was their number, which equates to direct tax relief for your citizens, because that's gonna be levy dollars that we don't need to utilize. So, on the transportation side of thing, which another priority, CPA was one priority, transportation. They're in agreement, there's gonna be an increase in license tabs, increase in vehicle sales tax, and then they're looking at phasing in the auto parts sales tax over 5 years, I believe. And they're kind of up in the air yet on the delivery tax, or like for Amazon or these delivery, they're gonna put a tax on this delivery avenues, but they're not really real optimistic on that.
But it has a potential large revenue source. I was talking with Roger Demke Sunday, and he's really following this real close.
Yeah, that one, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of legislative, I mean, they're kicking the tires on it, but doesn't sound like it's a lot there. The Senate is looking at raising, Missy talked about the threshold going from 1.9 million to 2.15. The Senate has looked to increase that to 3.25 million with an inflationary factor in there, for that exemption. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that one and see how that plays out. Public safety aid, 30% would go to the county, 70% to the cities, local cities, and the Senate has that at 325 million. That's a significant. I think that's a one-time.
It's one-time money.
One-time dollars.
And one of the challenges that's been identified in there is that every city receives the money, even those that contract with counties for their law enforcement services, but there's no requirement that they pass that money to the county. So what is anticipated most cities would do is they would use those dollars to pay for their contract to the county, and now it's not getting that money to enhance services.
Yes. So that might be something we need to discuss and have, like for Meeker, we only have one city that has, well, two cities.
Two.
1.5. Because
1 3/4.
because Eden Valley's on the county line, so we only have Litchfield that is fully encompassed by the county. So, and there's a corridors of commerce bill. Basically, they wanna include some special funding for the counties that are around the metro counties, which Meeker would be included in that. And, that's the rim counties, if you will, but, there's not, I mean, that's just something that's been discussed at this point. There's not anything significant to that, so. Other than that, that's all I have. We do have Dare graduation in Eden Valley is 9 o'clock on the 12th. And I believe ACGC is that's Eden Valley.
Oh, yeah.
ACGC is the same day, I believe. 1 o'clock. Is that it, after lunch? That would make sense. So, that's something. Other than that, I don't have anything. So if we have nothing further, questions?
Move to a June.
June. It's a May.
I wish it was
Turn to June.
June weather maybe in May.
I got a motion.
I don't wanna lose May.
Anybody want to commit
Second that.
second June? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.